basically about your body and or Alright, welcome back. Today's video is going to be about the Masonic allegory about Hiram Abiff, in particular the three ruffians who ultimately attacked him and had buried him in a shallow grave. If this is your first video of mine that you're seeing, I hope that you will watch all the other videos or more of the other videos instead of just watching this one, because if this is your first one, you're not really going to understand the theme of my page, which is that all stories, whether movies, mythologies, Bible stories, are basically about your body and or the heavenly body. So everything that's in the heavenly body is inside your physical body. Everything that's in your physical body is basically all in your mind. All is mind, everything is mental. Everything that's inside your mind and everyone else's mind collectively is in the mind of the source, or what started us all, or if you want to refer to it as God. So this is no different. This story, and I'll summarize the story of Hiram Abiff. You have to Google it on your own. You can find it on somewhere, the story in its entirety. But it's going to show that this is basically how you incarnate, a story of incarnation into this body. The three main characters of this story is Hiram Abiff. He basically was the architect, Solomon, and Hiram, king of Tyre. So it's two Hirams. So just not to get them confused. All right. What you gotta understand about my videos is that I give you facts that you can look up on your own, and what I do is try to give you, based on like all my videos, that show you that this is pretty much my thesis is basically everything is about your body. So what you have to do is differentiate what I consider the facts. So what I do on the board is write out the facts. So these are the facts of the stories, and I give you references, and then I summarize it based on what I think it means. Now you may come up with a different meaning. Alright, today I'll be discussing Magic 101. Alright, today's lecture is about Jacob's Epiphany. We'll be referring to the Bible, Genesis chapter 32, verses 24 through verse 32. First of all, I just want to let you know that this story is an allegory. I'm going to now define allegory. Allegory is a symbolic work in which characters and events are to be understood as representing other things and symbolically expressing a deeper, often spiritual, more come up with a different meaning or a similar meaning, or some of the things might be different. Because what I'm finding is a lot of people is clicking not like or different things, but they're not giving reasons, so I'm not sure what that is. I no longer look at the comments, so I apologize for that. I know people try to message me. I started off early on doing that, but I no longer talk back to people or correspond, so I apologize for that. I just really think that if you just watch all the videos, take notes on the facts of it all, take in consideration how I summarize or how I interpret the facts, and then come up with your own, if not the same, and then you'll be alright. I've given you other references of books, so you can read on your own. I've given you pages, other people's channels, whom you can use, who teach class. I don't teach classes. I've given you people who can teach you breathing techniques. So once again, this is going to be about a meditation. So your goal is to learn how to strengthen your visualization skills, your breathing skills, your ability to go into trance quickly, and so on and so forth. So this story is no different. Alright, so once again, let me start off with the Hiram Abiff story, just summarizing it. You can get the full story if you Google it. Known as the three Jews, because basically all their names are similar except for the ending of it. The three endings I underline that makes them different is an O, an A, and a UM. So what you want to infer, well, so here goes, that's the fact. It's also a fact that there's such thing as an OM sound, OM, and sometimes spelled AUM. That's also a fact. It's a fact that there's a mandala, you look at like a Sri Yantra. There's a fact that there's a such thing as a Sri Yantra that they call, and it's a mandala. There are basically 9 interlocking triangles with a single point in the middle of them. You can meditate on that, and also you can make the Om sound. Because what supposedly happens is when you say Om, you're going to create that symbol in your subconscious anyway. You'll be able to see that if you do practice these meditations, that you will create, everything's about geometry. So that's what the G stands for, primary, not God. Somewhat generation, because generation means sex. but basically it's mainly geometry. Because that's what Hiram Abiff represents. He's basically the king of geometry. This is my opinion and the opinion of others, that's what this story is really about. The Om sound. See, everything is created, you incarnate with physical sounds, with vibrations and tones. That's what the word, vibrational sound. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that they killed you. So don't always look at these allegories don't judge them as good or bad or good or bad characters because it may seem that they were bad, but this is basically about you incarnating. You may have chosen to come here. Some people chose to incarnate in these physical bodies. Okay, now what did the first ruffian do? If you read the story, Jubello, let me get my notes right. Struck you. No. Let me go back. Jubello. I may have the story a little bit wrong, but you can. Okay, Jubello with the A, ending with A, first hit him in the throat, or in the neck, I should say. Hit him in the neck with a 24-inch gauge, or what they call a rule. If you look at this up in Wikipedia, what a gauge or a rule is for, it's basically a measuring device that sometimes, I had it written down, a measuring device. A gauge in science and engineering is a device used to make measurements or in order to display certain information, like time. So notice the 24 inches. That's what we're talking about. So this is symbolic of time. So what you're doing, these three ruffians also represent three dimension, or the third dimension that we're in. We're in the third dimension. So this story is about you falling into the third dimension. The first dimension is time. So basically you have 24 hours in a day. That's what that 24, that's the allegory is symbolizing. So you get hit in the neck. So we're dealing with the throat chakra on that one. Alright, the next ruffian is Jubello. Hits him in the chest area with what's called a square. So in particular, in masonry, it's a framing square. So what we're dealing with now is the frame, your frame, which is what? Space. So now we have the second dimension, space and time. So we have time with the gauge, space with the square. Alright, the third one, which was known as the fatal blow, was hit with a mallet or a maul. So, and was hit in the head. So what happens is, that's death. So that's the third degree, space, time, and death. So if anybody know anything about this geometry, Earth is considered the cube, or so you have the three dimensions of a cube. All right. So if you Google some of the instruments and what they use for, and you can break it down a little bit more, you'll notice that the reason why a mallet and not a hammer was used. Anytime you use a mallet, you're not trying to injure or deform the thing that you're hitting. Mallets are used when a softer blow is called for. It doesn't leave marks, and it's less likely to dent the workpiece. What's the workpiece in this particular thing? It's your body. Because remember, that's what the whole Solomon's temple was about. You're trying to build your body so your soul can inhabit it. Remember, Hiram, if I broke it down before, Hiram is basically your higher self. Only so much of your light has fell into your body. That's what the story of the fallen angels. You are the fallen angels, or fallen angles of light. Okay? You can also go into breaking down what the square is. The square is like to get you on a right angle. The word right is synonymous with what? The word correct. Right and correct. Oh, you're right. Oh, you're correct. The word correct, C-O-R-R-E-C-T, if you break it down, all it's really missing is an E in between both of the words. So the word correct, C-O-R-E, can be core, which is just your center, and erect. So you want an erect core. So you hear what I'm saying, bring him up perpendicular on his square. So remember, he got raised from the grave with a master's grip. Just like with the whole story of Jesus, who was a master mason, if you will, master builder, or master architect, who raised Lazarus from the grave. So what you're dealing with is a shallow grave. So what happened with Hiram Abiff, he was put into a shallow grave. This is your subconscious mind. So it's not buried so deep, but it's buried just below the surface where you almost ignore it or forget you have it. So we're dealing with the subconscious here when we're talking about a shallow grave. All right? Okay, so I'm going to pan down. I already did that. So looking at the three characters I mentioned before, Hiram Abiff represents the throat. Now what you're dealing with here, These are the places. The energies or the people who preside over these areas are the people. So what you're looking at, Solomon isn't the heart itself. He represents peace. So that's what a place. So you're basically dealing with your voice. That voices in your head, that's really you. So you're not really talking to different people or different entities. These are all the voices in your head. So this is your voice. So Hiram, or the high realm, is basically Superman. Superman is with Kal-El, the voice. So we talking about the throat. So those are, I put those numbers next to them because those are the chakras. So we're not dealing with the lower chakras, so like 1, 2, and 3. Most of the time, 4 or the heart chakra is the one that balances them all. So we haven't even talked about the 7th chakra. But both those are chakras represents the throat or the voice. Solomon represents the heart. Hiram, king of Tyre, represents the pineal gland. Now what you're dealing with here, Solomon means peaceful. He's not the heart. Jerusalem is the heart. That's the place. So we're dealing with places. These are the places. The throat, the neck, the chest, and the head. These are the places. The energies or the people who preside over these areas are the people. So what you're looking at, Solomon isn't the heart itself. He represents peace. So that's what a place, that's what a heart. He puts peace. He's the one who's the presiding energy, if that makes sense. All right. So Hiram, the king of Tyre, presides over the pineal gland area. He's not the pineal gland, but he's the presiding person over the pineal gland area. Now, Hiram Abiah is not the throat. He's definitely, I already told you, he's in the subconscious. But basically, your subconscious is that voice, that hidden voice that you really don't hear. That subconscious is the one that when you hear a song in the mall or wherever you are, and you can't understand why you singing it later. Oh, I didn't see that. Another part of it is the thing that control your heartbeat, your breathing. You don't have to consciously think about those things. So the controller is your higher self, or your high realm. Abiah is the one who controls that. So you're basically dealing with your voice. That voices in your head, that's really you. So you're not really talking to different people or different entities. These are all the voices in your head. So this is your voice. So Hiram, or the high realm, is basically the super or superior part of you. So now let's pan down to what I wrote out about Superman. The word Superman, super is it's basically an abbreviation of the word superior. So what you're dealing with when you talk about Superman, I wrote that movie, Man of Steel, down, so you can go look at that. Superman or superior man is your higher self, and you have your lower self. Remember his superior name, his godly name was Kal-El, which they say is translates to voice of God. So once again, we record another blank surface, maybe a corresponding to Superman or the higher man or the high ram with Kal-El, the voice. So we talking about the throat. So those are, I put those numbers next to them because those are the chakras. So we're not dealing with the lower chakras, so like 1, 2, and 3. Most of the time, 4 or the heart chakra is the one that balances them all. So we haven't even talked about the 7th chakra. But both those are the chakras that they correspond. The throat chakra is the 5th one. The heart chakra is the 4th one. The pineal gland or the third eye chakra is the 6th one. All right. So also, I broke down a little bit more. Is Jedediah was also Solomon's name at birth, given to him by the prophet Nathan, if you will. That means beloved of God and so on and so forth. But if you look at the first 4 letters, that's the Jedi again. So once again, I'd like to refer you and cross-reference you to different videos. Go to my, Skywalker, whatever that movie is, Star Wars video. You'll break down, you'll learn what the Jedi, so they get that, George Lucas gets the name from the Jed, D-J-E-D, is basically symbolic of Osiris' spine. So you can also look that up and get more information on that, the Jed and the Jedi, and so on and so forth, because then you will understand, if you go back to the video, you understand that basically what Darth Vader represents is Doth, which is knowledge. Knowledge is sex. That's why he looks like a black penis. That's all that really is. His helmet is shaped like a penis. So that was all symbolic of sex and so on and so forth. So you can go back to Star Wars and look at that, and you know Doth means knowledge or Gnosticism, and so on and so forth. And which is to know in the Bible means sex, if you haven't figured it out. That's why I say I'm cross-referencing videos to encourage you to go look at other videos, because you're not going to get all that information in this, and then you're going to be like, oh, he's just making shit up. So, however you feel about it, use the facts I use, facts of the story, facts and so on and so forth, facts of the movie Kal-El, they said mean voice of God, I didn't make that up, and then you determine if the story I'm giving around it is plausible. So I told you he was in a shallow grave. So what we're dealing with here is the sound Om. So once again, I'm trying to basically encourage you to go back into doing meditation. So I'll show this book again. I showed it in my last video. Dark Light Consciousness. So it's a lot of techniques on how to breathe and visualize, so on and so forth. Edward Bruce Bynum. So also, I've shown this book many times. The Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. So it gives a lot of names, so you can break down the names and what Solomon means, which means peaceful, and the metaphysics of it. You get the Hiram, the King of Tyre, and so on and so forth. So like I said, if this is what I would appreciate, if you, I no longer respond to your messages. I know a lot of people been inboxing me. I don't even look at the comments anymore, because it was kept going back to the same stuff. Some type of, it's almost like you need me to convince you. I'm not trying to convince anybody you have to come to this on your own. I'm just giving you information. 3 of them. That's why the hint to it is the last 3 letters of the just another sound. I'm throwing all this extra stuff at the end because I'm wrapping it up. Like I said, you have to do your own research and get the details of these stories. Then that's when you'll learn more about Hiram Abiff. He's the master of geometry. He's of the tribe of Naphtali. So basically, he's also a descendant of Tubal-Cain. Remember, Tubal-Cain is the 3rd degree Mason's password. So you get that password. I already told you Tubal-Cain is a play on words. 2 balls and your cane, 2 balls and your penis. So he's a descendant of your penis. So, you know, you can go on further and look at more of the story and break it down. But the gist of it is like all these other stories, it's about incarnation, reincarnation, leaving your body, things in the sky, the energies in the sky, so on and so forth. Vibration, tones. You got to work on your tones. That's why when you get into this magic stuff, whether you do it out loud or they can say you can do it in your mind, because I gave you a magic book on a reference. So look at some of my magic videos. I gave you a reference to a book called 12 Lessons of Magic. It'll tell you can make these vibrations with your throat. So that's what the vowels are. They weren't vowels in the old languages. So you're dealing with the vowels, those high-pitched sounds. A, E, I, O, U, and so on and so forth. I think that's it. So just the pan down. Yeah, that's it. So just understand that that's what this story is about. All other stories. If you have any comments that you don't like or you want to add something, help the other people out. I'm not getting involved anymore. Only got a couple more videos I think I want to do. That's why I stopped making them, because I pretty much gave you all the information. This is basic. These are basic lessons. So for somebody out there jumping up and they see right now, oh, it's more to it, who's a little bit more advanced, then share it if you like. But I'm trying to get people started. Yeah, there's a whole lot more to this stuff. But if you get started with this and get your breathing, visualization, and meditation stuff down, ability to get into a trance without using any of these extra things like alcohol or ayahuasca or DMT, if you can do it naturally, start by learning how to keep a dream journal, learn how to lucid dream, basically carry your consciousness while you sleep. It'll take you to the other levels. But this is for the basic level. This is to get people started. This is, and I'm giving you references. This book could take you a little bit further. Dark Light Consciousness on how to bring that, what they call kundalini, or that electric snake up to your forehead. Because if you notice on the headdress of the Egyptians, they have a snake and a bird. The snake represents electricity. The bird represents magnetism. All right? So it's always, remember, we are electromagnetic beings. El or Emmanuel was Jesus. His counterpart, which was magnets or magnetism, was Mary Magdalene. Also, I broke down the story of Dorothy. Dorothy means gift of God in The Wizard of Oz. Remember, she was raised by her uncle Henry. Henry means voltage, V-O-L-T, which is electricity. His wife was named Emily, but they didn't call her Emily. They call her I-M. The name Emily means rival. So her rival is electricity. Well, since they gave it away by saying I am, like the letter M. So they letting you know the rival to voltage or electricity is magnetism. Same story. I'm cross-referencing at this end. I'm trying to encourage you. Look at all the videos. You're going to be like, looking at one video, you're going to be like, these are not about the body. These are real people. These are not real people. These are characters. None of these people ever existed. They're all inside your body. They're energies inside your body that you can activate. All right, that's it. Going on 23 minutes. Thank you. Alright, so this is my first video in a long time. If this is the first video you stumbled upon, I advise you to watch all the videos. I will summarize my stance on everything. All is mind, everything is mental. You probably heard that before. All is mind, everything is mental. I believe that all these stories, whether it be a comic book, a movie, stories, mythology stories in the Bible, they're all allegories, and they're based on the sky, astrology, or the heavens, or whatever you want to call it, and or your body. Okay? And this is no different. So what I'm going to talk about today is the story about Jesus being born in Bethlehem. So it's kind of like what I call this video, The Belly of the Beast. The reason why I have it, Bible spelled B-Y-N-U-M. Pretty good book, reason being. And the whole book is pretty interesting, but in the last chapters, he go into different tips on how to breathe, different postures, and so on and so forth. So it may be helpful for a novice. I know I had problems concentrating, so he gave tips. So some of the stuff I had problems with early on in meditating and stuff, this book is pretty helpful. So I ran across this when someone gave this to me as a gift. Alright, so without further ado, let's break down the story of Jesus being born in Bethlehem. I told you most of these stories are about the heavens and or your body. So the heavenly body and your physical body. Beth-El means house of God. I put an asterisk by God because God is El is mistranslated as God. It really means power and or light. So power or light. So it's really the house of light or the house of power. Bethlehem means house of bread or place of food or sustenance. So on your body, the house of bread is really your bread basket. So, ding, bread basket is what? Your stomach. If you Google second brain, what should come up is stomach. It's a nickname for the stomach because it has nerve endings kind of similar to the ones in the brain, and it acts sometimes independent of the brain because of these neurons or nerve endings. So what you're dealing with is the solar plexus. This is why Jesus is known as the Son of Man. The S-O-N and S-U-N is the same thing. So the sun or solar of man, because these nerves radiate. So this is pretty much like at the top of the stomach. So that's what we're dealing with Bethlehem on the body. In astrology or in the heavens or in the sky, it's in the house of Virgo. Virgo is Latin for virgin. That's why you get a virgin birth. What's happening, if you look at the hieroglyph for Virgo, it's always a woman carrying two things. One of those things is wheat, which makes bread. So house of Virgo is really the house of bread. So that's why you get the story of him being born, having a virgin birth in the sky. But in your body, we're talking about your stomach. So let's go back to the stomach. So this is the first brain. This is the second brain. So the first brain is, of course, your head. If you read the story of Jesus being the Son of Man, so you have to be pretty much at the pit of your stomach. You want to raise that energy up your back. How many bones you got in your back? How many vertebrae? 33. How old did they say Jesus was when he died? 33. So we're talking about starting at your stomach, Raising it up. So those of you who are probably getting confused, you have, when you get into this meditation stuff, you're going to know certain channels are up the back of your body and certain channels are up the front. So that's another thing. But just to make this real simple for this allegory, what we're trying to do is raise this energy from our stomach up to our head. So in the Bible, where does Jesus get buried at? In Golgotha or Calvary. So it's two different words. One is Hebrew. Golgotha is Hebrew. The Latin word is Calvary. So if you look in the brackets of most of your Bibles, it'll tell you it's called the skull, or the place of the skull. So we're talking about the head. In particular, the brain stem, which is and even more specific, is the medulla oblongata. You notice the similarity between the word oblongata and Golgotha? All right? So in Greek mythology, you have Atlas. Atlas is the guy holding up the world with his head. This is another allegory. Atlas is actually the medulla oblongata, or the brain stem holding up your head. The globe is your head. So just to kind of cross-reference things. All right, so back to this. So you can look in your footnotes of your Bible. It's going to tell you that this is really, he was buried in the skull. But they're going to try to tell you it's a mountain. And I told you in allegories, mountains, there's always something that's mounted on your shoulder. So we're still talking about the head. So they're going to tell you it's a mountain or a cave and so on and so forth. Cave is usually inside your skull. A mountain, it just means it's on top of your shoulders. So just show you how to break down some of these stories. That's Jesus once he gets buried there. But in order for you to become a Christ is not a name, it's a title. It means one who is anointed, or to anoint your head. So in these meditations and so on and so forth, at night you produce melatonin, daytime serotonin. What you're doing is trying to bring this fluid up to your pineal gland, so on and so forth. So these are some techniques in this book once again. You can find stuff other places. I told you I don't really teach the breathing, but that's the secret. The secret is the breath and being able to hold your concentration and visualize stuff. So I don't need to go into that anymore. I'm trying to encourage that. That's why I stopped doing these videos. People kept asking me religious stuff. They're not getting anywhere. We're not going to get anywhere. If you just still want to believe these are real people in these stories, then have at it. Or you just want to know this stuff so you can argue with people and debate. I don't have time for all that. It's merely the time. I want the people who are ready to get into the magic videos and how to get that started. Once again, so first video, try to look up dream journals. Try to start off. I told you where to start off at. Try to look at all these videos. I try to make them short. All right. House of God. Okay. Now, so who is the Lord? When you get in the Bible, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. The word Baal or Baal, sometimes spelled B-A-A-L, sometimes spelled B-E-L or B-E-L, sometimes pronounced Baal or Baal. That's what's translated as Lord. If you look up Beelzebub, you'll know that's translated as Lord of the flies. Anything with the word Baal in it is always going to translate as Lord. So if you look in your metaphysical dictionary, Bible dictionary, you'll see that I have a whole bunch of words with Baal at the beginning and all start off with Lord and whatever's at the end. So this Beelzebub happens to be the Lord of the flies. What do niggas and flies? The saying goes, niggas and flies are always on some shit. So what we're dealing with when it comes to Beelzebub and the Lord of the Flies, we're talking about, we call this whole area down here our stomach. I told you this is more about the top of the stomach or the solar plexus part. What we're dealing with right here when we refer to our stomach is our guts, our intestines, and so on and so forth. So flies are always around bowels. So we still dealing with that phonetically. B-O-W-E-L sounds just like bowel. So this is your bowel movement. Bowel plus L. So you bow down to this light or this power. So our appetites are ruling most of us. Most of us is food is our Achilles heel. So when it comes to meditation, it's better to have a vegetarian diet and so on and so forth. So this book will tell you some stuff, some tips. And a lot of people tell you try to keep your gut clean. It'll give you clear meditations. Back to the Baal story. So this is your belly. I'm giving you a lot of it. So I already say this because people still, their ego won't let them let go of religion. But I give a lot of coincidences. If nothing else, you're like, I can see what he's thinking. Whether you believe it or not. But Baal is where we get the word belly. That's what we call our stomach or our bread basket. Another nickname for our stomach or bread basket is belly. So we're dealing with the Lord. Our Lord is our stomach. So we're dealing with our lower chakras. Our goal with this meditation is to raise up from that area and go up to our head, to our higher chakras. So that's what the whole story is really about. Abdomen is another word. So you're dealing with the ab. Ab is father. Demon or daemon. I already told in the other video, daemons really mean genius or your genes, so on and so forth, or Lord energy. So it's basically your DNA. So the father and so forth. So what we're dealing with, Baal is just another energy in your body and or in the sky. So that's what all this stuff is really dealing with. I also told you about Christ. If you ever notice that some of the Greek and Roman words always end with an OS and or US. I don't know Greek or Roman, but you know most of them is like Christos, Jesus, Christos. If you notice that Augustus became August by taking the US off, Julius Caesar became July by taking the US off. What they did with Jesus Christus, they took the OS or the US at the end of Christ off, but they didn't take the US off of Jesus. So if you notice, J can be a Y or a I or a J. So J is really our English word yes. That's where you get the word Yeshua. So yes is the affirmative. So that's what you're doing. We're dealing with words of power. So I want to mention that as a sidebar in this video. That the word yes is pretty much what we're dealing with when we're talking about this energy. The word the, which is theos in Greek. Theo means God. Theology is the study of God, so on and so forth. So astrotheology is the study of God in the heavens. Blah, blah. So just learn how to use these words. So, like I said, when you're dealing with magic or getting to the magic part of it, you're going to want to know these words. Like I said, if you haven't seen, I really not, I don't answer none of your, I don't respond to any of your comments anymore because people kept asking about religious stuff, trying to get you away from that. I'm going with the people who are ready to start doing the magic stuff. So just look at all the videos I can recommend. I pretty much just got bored and got semi-inspired since I got a hold of this book to go and make up this video. I'm gonna do a couple more because some more came to mind. One of the comments I ran across a long time ago, I've been wanting to address this about Wikipedia. Everybody shits on Wikipedia. How can you? Because one of the comments, I had a healthy argument with a friend about I do my own research and Wikipedia this and that. What was unhealthy is one of the comments that one of the I wouldn't call him a subscriber, whatever he was that watched my video. LOL, this guy is quoting using Wikipedia as a reference. FYI, everything I use, reason why I use Wikipedia is so you can Google it and look at it and see it that I'm just not making it up. Most of the stuff I found to be true or basically lines up with the stuff I've already read before I even used the computer. Before I was researching this stuff early on, before it's easy to just go on the computer and get this stuff through books and spend all this money on books and so on and so forth. So, and what I would tell you that everything is secondhand information. That was the argument with my friend. There's secondhand information on Wikipedia. Even the books that you read are going to be secondhand information. That's why I'm encouraging you, once you learn how to really get in tune with your inner power, the God within, not the one that you're making without or outside your body, you'll be able to ask questions before you go to bed and get your answers in your sleep or just in general. So your goal is to become your own first-hand information. So you don't have to listen to me. This is just to get you jump-started and so you won't be spooked out because they told you not to do magic and so on and so forth. All right, I think that concludes this one. Hopefully it was short. I try to make them nice and short. And at the end, I rambled because once I cut the video, I forgot something. So for all the new people, please watch some more of the videos and watch them all, and you'll learn a lot. And put them all together, and then you'll see where I got everything. So like I said, once again, to summarize everything, all is mind, everything is mental. Everything that's in the sky is inside your body. Everything that's inside your body is inside your head. Everything that's inside your mind or head is in everybody's collective mind. And all our collective minds add up to the one mind or the source. So whatever you want to call that source, God is a generic term for me, so I don't use God. I told you you might not want to really refer to Lord as your God, but Lord is just a male version of lady. So a lot of people don't like to call a man Lord, but they have no problem. A woman has no problem being called a lady. Those are, I guess, English terms. So Lord and lady is the same thing. All right, so that's it. I'll close out with that. I'm rambling. All right, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And once again, I do not respond to your comments, or I know some people like to message me. I don't read them because I don't feel like getting into debates. But everything you need to know is on these videos. You need to start doing stuff and stop listening to me and other people in general. Thank you. All right, welcome back. It's been a while since I did a video. Today we're gonna revisit the Adam and Eve story in Genesis. I did a breakdown of Adam and Eve as it related to the cells in your body, how Adam was your atom and it split evenly. You can check that video out. This one we're going to center around the story itself and what it means to die and to become holy. Alright? So what you got to understand, if you're new to this, to my channel, you're going to watch all the videos, but everything is mostly a play on words. So what I want to stress to you today is you do not die as we think of. We die a physical death, but we don't die. We have no beginning and no end. Alright? So you're going to learn today that certain words, they either add or take away a letter. I wrote some down here as some examples. Some of the easier ones is how they just added a D to the word evil and gave you a personification of evil, which is now the devil. They took an O from good and they personified good by calling it God. Alright? Another one is heaven. All they did was add an E. It's really a safe place, which is a haven. Daddy is the one I want to talk about because I told you, if you watch any of my videos, most of these allegories always have the father dead. Or the father's in heaven, like Superman, he has a father in heaven, and then one on earth. Spider-Man was raised by his aunt and uncle, and not his regular parents. Batman, his parents got killed. It's usually the daddy. In any karate movie, it begins with the daddy being killed, and the son has to avenge his death. So the same thing with the widow's son, or what Mason called a widow's son. What's happening is daddy, all they did was, instead of saying daddy or he's my dad, what happens is he's dead. The word dad, that dad E, they put the E at the E sound at the end. You make up the word D-E-A-D. The reason I bring that up is, basically, allegorically, when a father ejaculates, he dies because what's inside your sperm is called solar phallic energy. Solar as in the soul or the sun, and phallic as in the penis. So what happens is there's energy, and it's said to drain you, or your essence is leaving your body to create another compact version of yourself. So technically, the father dies every time he makes children or ejaculates sperm. So that's what this play on words is. So which brings me to today's lecture is about dying. All I did was add the letter E to the Greek word die, or prefix, or whatever you want to call it. The prefix die in Greek means two. Literally, it means two, but technically, it means split. As in, when two people split, it's called a divorce. When you have two dice, it's called dice. So one of the two dice is called die. When you have division, means split vision. So when you divide something, you split the vision of it. Diversity, you have split or many. It's not when you say, oh, we have a diverse culture. You don't mean two different cultures. You mean more than two. Two or more is what it means. So it means to split. Just like the word several. It has the word seven in it because it implies seven. When someone says, I have several keys or several cars or several this, they may mean seven, but it can mean anything. It can be seven or more. So several just mean more than a few. Alright? So to bring you back to the word die, so when you go to the Genesis story, it says, when God tells Adam or Eve, however the story goes, you can read it, if you eat from the apple, you will surely die. Well, they're talking about you're going to split in two. What happens is your higher self splits from your lower self. Some of your energy or some of your soul gets trapped down here in the body, while the rest of it stays high, where you have to reunite with it. So your whole journey down here is another word they trick you with, is being holy. All that the word holy is the word whole. All they did was took the silent letter W off of there, made this a long E. They just changed the E into a Y. That's it. The word whole. So you split in two, or split, period, because there are many versions of you. It's not just two versions. So that's another lecture too. It's a different version of you on different planets and so on and so forth. But just for the point of this is just know you split. So what you have is, and just to bring you to some of the Masonic stuff, in Egypt, which in Greek is called East, but really it's Kemet. So in Kemet or Egypt, it was the word for soul is similar to the word for ram, R-A-M. So the word for soul and ram is similar. So what they would do in some of these allegories is use the word ram or lamb, like Jesus is the sacrificial lamb, or the Aryan or Aries. They would use a ram. So in Masonic lore, they have Hiram. Hiram is a high ram. He's your higher soul that's been knocked in the head and that's asleep in a shallow grave or dead. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty much, because sleep is the cousin of death. So he's not really dead. He's in a shallow grave ready to be resurrected. Same as Jesus. Jesus died in Golgotha. Golgotha is basically the base of your skull. It's your medulla oblongata. So I mentioned your brain stem, because after your 33rd vertebrae, remember Jesus died at 33, you have your brain stem. So the medulla oblongata, or Golgotha, or Calvary is right here. So what you're trying to do is raise this up from the base of your spine, and don't let it stop here. You got to bring it to the front of your forehead, to your pineal gland. So that's what that story is about. All right. So the apple that's being eaten. Whenever you say apple in any story, it's basically meaning pentagram. Penta means five letter or 5 lines. So gram means word, 5-letter word, so on and so forth. So what happens is they use this symbolism because when you cut an apple in half, you'll see, well, some of the old apples right now it's kind of funny with how they play with the fruit. But when you cut an apple in half, you'll see 5 seeds. So this became to symbolize in some of these allegories as the pentagram, or when you incarnate. So when you get the word pent, to a gram. Pent means 5. So you have arm, leg, arm, head. So we're based on the 5 or the 5 PHI system. So when you repent means reincarnation. You're basically repentant again. You're getting your 5 limbs again. So whenever I say you repent for your sin, you're really repenting for your skin. The whole story is really you fell into skin, not sin. Alright? So your skin is your sin. Also in Latin, the word malum with a long A, malum, and malum with a long A is apple. Malum with a short A is evil. So that's how you get the evil apple. You can also see this apple thing in either Sleeping Beauty or Snow White. I believe it's Snow White, about the poisonous apple. So you're going to see this theme through fairy tales. I want to bring up fairy tales because the Brothers Grimm is a very popular set of stories. They pretty much, most of all the fairy tales come from the Brothers Grimm. The word Grimm, I told you, is the same as the word glamour, as in True Blood. Glamour, grammar, grim, grimoire, all that stuff, all means word. It's the same word. So look up etymology. So if you're not familiar with my videos, you need to watch them all, and you can backtrack on some of the stuff I'm talking about. I already talked about Grimm and the Grim Reaper, the Reaper of the Word. You are the Word made flesh. You became a penta or a flesh. You reincarnated by repenting. You're going to keep repeating this process. All right. So also says you split. So another word they use down here is peace. P-E-A-C-E is the same as P-I-E-C-E. So the peace sign is this. This is a split fingers. Your fingers are split or in 2. So when somebody's telling you to rest in peace, they're pretty much programming you again. So when you keep telling, oh, rest in peace, you're basically telling that person to reincarnate again. All right? So what happens is, so I'm going to get you to light. So just give you some understanding about the geometry and the G and the Masonic symbol. So light, when you shine it through a prism, you may have did this in science, some one of your science classes in grammar school or high school. Whenever you shine light through a prism, it slows down and splits into usually 7 colors that you can see with the visible eye. Anywhere between the 7 colors from red to violet. So anything other than that you can't see with the naked eye is infrared, which is below red, or ultraviolet, which is above violet. So that's why you always have 7 fairies or 7 godmothers, which represent the 7 chakras in Sleeping Beauty, because your soul has slept. It's not dead. Sleep is the cousin of death. It's not dead, but it appears to be dead. Or like Hiram in a shallow grave. Or like Jesus, buried, but he will be resurrected. It's slowed down, because when you slow down light or your soul goes into a prism, another word for a prism is prison. So your light, when you put your light in a prism or a prison cell, the cells in your body are prisons. There's light in atoms. So when you shine light through these cells, it slows down, and you got what we got here is bodies, dense matter. So it slows down, it becomes dense. So that's what happens. Is light becomes sound, sound becomes shape or geometry. So in the Bible, they talk about El. I told you this doesn't mean God. The Canaanites consider El to be God, but you really translate that word as light or power. So El goes through a prism or through your cells and becomes Elohim. When you go look at the word "let us make man" in the Bible, us is translated from this word Elohim. It'll tell you it's translated from the gods and goddesses. Some of them, if you study more, it'll tell you it's 7 gods and goddesses that created the body, or Adam. So Adam becomes a shape. Adam means male and female, remember? So that's all this is. It's the same thing. El or light becomes the Elohim or sound. So when you slow down, when light is shine, it becomes sound. As sound slows down more, it becomes shape. Every sound has a shape. So that's the secret to geometry. It's another. I can break down geometry more. Masonic and sacred geometry when it comes to the different shapes and geometry of these different planets. But that's another lecture. I just want to show you that that's what this 7 is Elohim is all about. That's why you have the 7 dwarves. Snow White is really your soul. White is synonymous with light. Black is synonymous with darkness. White, light is basically representative of the soul. Black or darkness is representative of the body. Has nothing to do with white and black as Caucasian, African American, or whatever you want to call yourself. Alright, so these fairy tales are about your body. Snow White is all about, and the 7 dwarfs is about how you was one light, and then you dwarfed into these 7 lower. You dwarfed or diverted your light into these 7 little dwarfs. Alright? And you have to do work, because you read the fairy tale, it all makes sense to you. And that's what the poison apple. So the same poison apple that's in Snow White is in the Genesis story, Adam and Eve story. It's all about incarnation. Or it's representative of human ignorance. So apple is pretty much the womb or this matrix that we're in. So it symbolizes, the apple itself symbolizes the womb, and that pentagram symbolizes what comes out of that womb, which is the physical body, male or female. Another fairy tale that's part of the Brothers Grimm stories is Rip Van Winkle. Rip, rest in peace. So we're talking about that peace sign again. What happened if you remember, Rip Van Winkle was lazy. He didn't want to do any work, and he ended up going up this hill. Hill or a mountain is always synonymous of going up to your head. And if he was lazy, if you bring this energy up to your head and don't do the work, it dies right here in Golgotha or hiding in the shallow grave. Your goal is to bring it up here. That's why you get Ash Wednesday and all that stuff, or the red dot on your forehead if you're Indian. It's all about, you have to bring that fire or that energy up to your pineal gland. If you don't, you just pretty much, fire burns out and the residue is ashes. So what happens with Rip Van Winkle is, this is a story about reincarnation. Laziness, or if you don't do the work to raise your Kundalini energy, you reincarnate. So what happened when he came back down the hill? No one recognized him. Why? Because he was in another body. Technically, the story is him being so old, nobody recognized him, but we got to read between the lines. Because now his son has the same name and the same disease of being lazy. So he has basically reincarnated into his son and became the same person. And if he don't learn his lessons, he's doomed to repeat. Not that incarnating is a bad thing. When you start getting into this and going through your dreams, because that's where you learn that's the closest thing you can get to death. Learn how to live in your dreams, and you'll be ready for when you finally pass out of your body for good. And you can choose to you become a master reincarnator. I just wanted to show you that they just play on words. They have people around here, oh, you're so holy. They don't even know what holy means. Oh, it's a holy day or a holiday. They don't know what that means. It's a chance for you to become whole again. Your soul, your ram has split. Like most Masons think Hiram is a real person. You know, like I told you, all these are play on words. 2-ball cane is the password you give when you get to the 3rd degree. 2-ball and your cane or your penis. 2 balls and your penis. That's all this stuff. These are all puns. All these allegories are reduced to puns and play on words. Most words mean the same thing. Peace and peace. All this time you've been talking about cells in your body. Those are prisons. You got light. That's how they make the atomic bomb. They study how a cell or atom is, and they extracted the light and all that other stuff in it. It's light inside every cell, but it's so dense. So now, another thing is about portals. You have many portals on your body besides the big ones. But that's what your pores are. Pores are portals. So once you start to learn how to travel out your body and enter in your body from different spots and through your dreams, that's a whole nother lecture. That's a little bit deeper. But I just want to break all that down. I hope that makes sense. I always like to recap. The point of this lecture is to give you another view of what Adam and Eve means, and so you'll know that you don't die. You are the Alpha and the Omega. Your body may pass on, but your soul has been here before your body. You have no beginning, no end. Just like Melchizedek is not born of a woman. You look at the Bible, Jesus comes in the line of Melchizedek. So look up Melchizedek and so on and so forth. So these are different little orders that will teach you about this. No beginning, no end. Just play on words. D-I without the E. Holy without the W. Your whole thing is that you split when you came into skin, and now you're trying to become whole again unless you choose to repent or reincarnate. I hope this helps. Just at the end, FYI, I see I got more subscribers. I don't know when the last time I did a video. I used to interact with you guys, but I no longer do. It became a little bit frustrating because people kept going back to the same thing. They only want to talk about the Bible, and they were stuck on being religious. I'm not a religious person. If it's hard for you to get around that, your ego won't release that block, just go by that's why I always bring up fairy tales and these comic book stories. All your stories are in fairy tales and comic books if you don't want to deal with the Bible stories. So whatever helps you, if that's what you want. Or you can just use this for entertainment. Oh, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. Alright? If you still think holy doesn't mean this, or die needs to die, then so be it. You will die, just keep on coming back. You just won't remember. Alright. Hope this helps. More videos to come. I got a couple more ideas for you, and I'll expand, like I said, on that Masonic stuff in another video.
Who likes to experiment, then your justification is just that. In order to learn more about entities, you work with them. So he's saying that's okay. But you need to be clear that that's what you want to do. So you basically an experiment, or you want to know something. You just basically want to be a scientist, which is fine. What he's saying is just know, you have to know that that's what you're doing it for. And state that. Alright. So he goes into all these things in detail. He has like a whole chapter on all of them. And when I say chapter, I mean like 2 or 3 pages. Like choosing a name. I already talked about housing it. You can put it in a Dow. That's what this new movie Annabelle is pretty much about. I haven't seen it. I'm just looking at the previews. Something with blood. I'll do a thing on what blood does also. But we'll go into feeding. So the determine the source of energy of feeding. One of them was about feeding. So I just go into that feeding time. Energy of some form or another has to be supplied in order for any entity to exist. Entities feed off energy, much like we eat and drink. Feeding the entity need not to be too difficult. There are two common ways that the entity can receive energy. The first is to feed an entity from your personal energy, and the second is to have it feed from an energy source external to you. When you first create an entity, an amount of your energy is used to give life to the entity. You can continue to be the sole source of energy if you would like to have an entity totally dependent on you for its existence. The way that you could feed your entity energy from you is to talk to it daily. Another way is to offer it devotional plates of food. Of course, the entity will not eat the physical food, but rather it will feed off the essence of the food. Basically, any attention that you give to the entity can serve as an energy feeding. So I've talked about this before, about the offering, even on your altar you can put food. I know we probably mocked before I got into this stuff, but they crazy. The thing is, the statue can't be eaten, the grapes or whatever have you, but alright, so today I'm going to do something I usually don't do, which is read from a particular book. So this will be the book Creating Magical Entities by David Michael Cunningham. It's about $10, $10 to $12. I recommend you get it. I would just be I highlighted some of the important things in it, but this will be the basic outline. So this is basically for those of you who have been practicing using sigils. So I like to call this using sigils on steroids. So we're actually going to create using thought forms. I discussed thought forms before in my video about the Super Bowl. The Beyonce, I believe she did a ritual. She made the lights, when they allowed her to have the lights go off for 33 minutes. So I told you that's a symbolic number. But you can check out that video. I talked about egregores and thought forms and so on and so forth. And how we create thought forms unknowingly all the time. But when you specifically put more energy into them, you can use them. So that's what this book is going to discuss. So I'm going to read from it, and then I'll paraphrase some of the things that he's talking about. But you must get the book, so I'm not going to give you all of it, because I wouldn't be doing the book any justice. Alright? You have the ability to create a being from the thoughts and emotions of your conscious mind, and by your direction, this being will act to manifest your desires. An entity combines the essence of the desired result with that of the person that created the entity. So basically, the result you want, the essence of that result, and the essence of your spirit is what creates the entity. Alright? A thought form is a symbol that represents a concept or thought for the person. A thought form can be visualized by anyone and can represent anything. It is entirely in the realm of concept until the person makes the thought form manifest into reality. So I told you about the layers of how things come into creation. You have the archetype on the Kabbalah tree, like the archetypes, the formation, the creation, the formation, and then the manifestation. So that's what he's basically talking about. He's basically in the astral plane. All right. All things that are created with the mind have the ability to manifest outside of the mind in some form or shape. Alright? I already told you that. The law is all is mind, everything is mental. Okay? People have created and worked with different types of entities far beyond recorded history. Many gods and goddesses came into being as thought forms personified. This allowed humans to interact with and interpret cause and effect in the world in which they live. Often these fledgling thought forms were slowly transformed into the gods and goddesses that we know today by the general acceptance of the attributes given to events. As more people adopted these understandings of the events as action of things greater than themselves, the thought forms gained momentum and energy from the people that understood them. Over time, a single thought that had transformed from one person's way of understanding the world to what are now considered some of the most powerful gods, goddesses, demons, and spirits. So what that was about is what I talked about, them Titan movies. In the Titan movie, it tells you that we created those gods, and the only reason why they're existing is because we're worshiping them. So they talked about, like, if these people stop worshiping us or loving us, we'll die. So Hades got the idea. He also said, as long as they fear us, also we can stay. That's energy too. So Hades, who represents hell or the devil, he's the one that came with the idea that not only does love and worship keep them going, also fear. All right. So if you check out the Titan movies, they give that little bit away. So that's what that was talking about. How we created these entities back in the day, and now we've forgotten what they was for. So the people who picked up these energy thought forms, they started worshiping them as greater than them. All right. So often people would house entities in things such as cats, bottles, gems, and statues. So this is telling you can use things. You're probably familiar with the black cat, with the witch, or whatever. But it's not the cat that's a familiar or entity. It's the energy you put into it. You can see a movie like Fallen with Denzel Washington, where the entity kept bouncing around from different people through touch. So that's an example. Because I think it's Azazel was the Azazel or something was the angel that was in that movie in Fallen. All right, by taking specific thoughts and emotions and identifying them with things like names, symbolic attributes, etc., we are better able to work with them in a conscious manner. So that's basically saying the reason why these are made. Most people, we can deal with tangible things like thought forms easier than intangible things. So we'll create these things and put them in something that we can look at and talk to, like a statue or a cat. That's what the movie Ted was really about. He didn't have a friend. He got bullied a lot, so he put all his energy into that teddy bear and made an imaginary friend that eventually came to life because he gave all his energy to that teddy bear. And the thought form later on became worship. I wouldn't say worship, but yeah, worship by everybody. If you watch the movie, he became a celebrity, Ted. So he was worshipped by everybody, and then he became more real to everybody. Alright. So that's what that movie was really about. Drop Dead Fred is another one. When someone studies magic long enough, they will come to understand that we only have company in life due to the illusion of being separated. Everything that we experience, perceive, or understand in any way has been created within our own minds. The world as we understand it was created by us through our experiences. Only we have the ability to change the things in our world, and our mind gives us the ability to do that. So this is basically talking about something that's going to be hard for you to grasp, but eventually you'll come to that realization. In the movie Matrix, they show how Morpheus was trying to teach Neo that everything that he believes is just in his head, that he can fly. So he put him on top of the building, and Neo believed him a little bit. He believed him enough to jump, but he didn't know that he can fly. So he didn't believe it enough at a point where he knew he can fly. So he ended up hitting the ground and bouncing back up. But he believed it just enough where he would try it and not die. So he ended up bouncing off the concrete. So that's equivalent to where I'm at now. I do believe that we're not solid. This is an illusion. We mainly make this. Most cells are made up 99% of space, so on and so forth. This is an illusion that we all separated, and that we should be able to walk through walls and certain things. Although I believe that, I don't believe it's strong enough to where I can walk through a wall. Alright? So that's basically what that is. Alright, you create entities and can accordingly determine what such entities will do for you. You don't use the perception of belief with entities. So let me repeat that. You do not use the perception of belief with entities, but instead use the perception of attributes with your entity. So to put it simply, you choose to perceive that an entity has specific talents about it that will help you in your operations. Those talents are attributes that you have placed upon the entity. So what they're saying is, don't put a perception of belief, because your beliefs are limited, like I just told you. I may be limited where I won't walk through walls, but I can create a thought form that I know that has the attribute to walk through walls. So that way, like if you want to create an entity that was a spy and that can walk through walls and so on and so forth. So that's what they're talking about. Don't use your beliefs when creating these entities. Use the attributes that you wish you had, that you really have, you just don't really believe it's strong enough. Okay? So you may not believe you can fly, but you can create a flying entity. Alright? So one way of understanding entities is that they are formed from the collective unconscious. When we specifically identify and give a certain type of energy human attributes, we are separating the energy from the collective unconscious and creating a new being. The new being is still interconnected with the collective unconscious, as we all are, but it is a distinct energy being. So the collective unconscious is basically that thing that we don't think about. We collectively, all of us have the same information. Like a lot of you guys be asking me questions, and I appreciate that you believe I know things, but what I'm telling you is you can know everything I know and more, because it's a data bank that has all these answers. If you learn how to meditate, you can get the same answers. As a matter of fact, this book teaches you how to create an entity, an astral messenger that can go get answers for you.
So it's in this place, what they call, something they call it the Akashic record. So, Aaliyah in the Queen of the Dam, her character was called Akasha, because she was the snake, so she slithered in the movie. So her name was Akasha, but that's basically Akasha record. The record is basically a library that we all share, but unconsciously. Like that's the place that teaches that controls our heartbeat, our breathing. We don't have to think about that stuff. Unconsciously, we breathe naturally. So that energy source is what they're talking about. So we create an entity from that energy source. Right? If entities are formed from thoughts and emotions, what were they before they were formed? So that was a question. Most other theories seem to make reference to a great mass of energy. This energy, sometimes called creative life force, exists in all things and expands beyond human understanding. When a human decides to give a part of this energy great mass form, it establishes this small part of energy as a new spiritual being. This new spiritual being resides on a plane of existence that some magical practitioners refer to as the astral plane. So I just discussed that. The process is similar to when parents conceive a child. They take a part of the great creative life force and give it form. This new form exists on both the astral and physical planes. An identity is established and furthers the creation of this being. The original energy from the creative life force has not been separated from the rest, but it has been provided with an astral and physical container in which it can reside. So the astral part is the thought. So when you having sex and you consciously want to create a baby, you should think about the name and everything. One person, sometimes you give out these names unknowingly, and they became these things. The name Jabari, I don't know if you're familiar with Jabari Parker. He's from Chicago, played for Simeon. Then went on to, I'm not really a sports dude, but I think went to Duke, but he plays for, I think he got drafted, I don't know which team, but Jabari Parker, pretty good guy. But the name Jabari means famous, and it's another word. But just imagine all the names that you've been given, and you may be living up to them and not knowing it, or you may not be living up to your potential. So your name, it means a lot. So I just thought about Jabari. I was researching some names today, so Jabari came. So that name, his parents meant to do that, and they had a thought of a famous child. So that thought resides in the astral plane. The container is his actual physical body. So the Jabari Parker in the physical form is what has been created. So everything that exists in the physical exists in what we call the astral plane or your dream world. So that's why I tell you, you can go to your dreams and get things and bring them back to the physical. Creating magical entities can be as easy or as hard as you would like it to be. Even with the least amount of preparation, you can produce a results-focused entity. Of course, the more that you put into your entity, the better your chances are of gaining the results that you desire. After creating the entity, little of your own energy is required to produce the results desired. Because of this, you are able to devote your time and energy to other things as you wish. So it's similar to a sigil. Once you make it, and you store it and you give it, you consecrate it, if you will. You just don't think about it anymore. It'll do its work. It'll manifest itself eventually. A magical entity can be used for several magical tasks at the same time. So you don't have to just make an entity for one task and then make another entity. You can make it for a couple of tasks at one time. They can be created to be astral messengers. I mentioned that already. They can help you learn a specific skill. For some people, it is easier to use entities to bring on magical results. One of the reasons for this is because when using other forms of magical workings, it may be difficult to know how the desired event will manifest. So he's talking about like any other type of magic that you've been playing with, even sigils. People may prefer this method because the entity is working, then you know, because you put in the result, you program the result in an entity, so you're gonna know it when it manifests. Let me go back. One of the reasons for this is because when using other forms of magic, it may be difficult to know how the desired event will manifest. This often leads to failed, half-realized workings, or workings that are not performed. When working with entities, the magi or magician is able to relate to a being doing the working. For example, in protection workings, it is easier. So this is for protection. It is easier for most people to envision a big, bloodthirsty beast ready to devour any and all that wish to cause the creator harm, rather than trying to envision a glowing light of energy keeping wrongdoers at bay.
So you basically can create an entity like a big monster that might dissolve anybody who wishes to do you harm. But you're not gonna. The entity is not killing that person. It's pretty much just dissolve. Some people can't handle people negative energy. You come home, be mad. Somebody made you upset. I don't let people make me happy or make me mad. Alright? I'm glad I learned that a long time ago. So I never say, "Oh, you make me sick," or "You make me happy," or "You make me mad." So you might want to start controlling how you feel. Stop saying someone makes you anything, whether positive or negative. All right. Some magi create magical entities solely as means to hone their magical abilities. By creating a magical entity, they are putting many learned skills to work while manifesting a real and needed result. So basically, you're just basically saying you can just do this just for practice, because some of your other stuff, to see the other stuff that you've been practicing working, like altars and different stuff. You can create an entity and let it live on your altar. All right. So other examples can be used for finding rare books, aiding in job search, helping sales of a product, irritating an enemy, protecting the house, etc., etc. The entity that you create is only limited by your imagination. Alright. So now, it says the first step to working with entities is learning to attune your energy to work with an entity. What that means is that you should have some degree of control over your own energy. If you do not, working with an entity, let alone creating one, may be difficult. What are some things that you can do to improve your connection with entities? So I highlighted the ones what he says. He said meditate, and he gives paragraphs on these. I won't go into exercise, diet, sleep, visualization. I will go into. I always talk about visualization. So another tool in your toolbox is the art of creative visualization. Creative visualization would help you align the physical, mental, and spiritual minds to act together to achieve a desired result. It also allows for you to gain insight and information that was once hidden. The type of information that you may receive may come in the form of a scent, an image in the mind's eye or pineal gland, a sense of coolness, so they talk about a sensation, or warmth, etc. So any of your five senses, you can feel it. Creative visualization is often thought of as a balancing act between meditation and hypnosis. This is because creative visualization has the controlled state of awareness that meditation affords. At the same time, it has the potential programming power that hypnosis provides. He goes on with more about the visualization. The other thing is experiencing energy signatures. It's another way to tune your energy. So I'll talk about that briefly. Each person and entity has their own energy signature. By learning to recognize your energy signature from someone else's, you become more attuned to the energy around you. So they're basically saying some of the exercises he talk about is having your back towards your friends when they enter the room. You should be able to tell who they are by how they make you feel. And he tells you a couple of things where you can do to practice that if you're not feeling that. Because I say that all the time. Like people who, after someone passed on, especially if they don't want to cross over, you should be able to know who they are by how they feel. But most of us don't even really know the real person. We only deal with what we see. Or, like I said, the allegory of the Philistines. We only deal with our five senses. Alright. The other thing, I said visualization, experiencing energy signatures. The next one he says is become more creative. So I'll go into that a little bit. Expanding your creativity is extremely helpful when working with any type of magic. But when it comes to creating entities, creativity should be given the highest priority of development. So he said that definitely in all magic is pretty helpful, but in this one, you got to give it highest priority. One of the things he says, a method to start sharpening your creative thinking skills is to come up with 10 solutions to every problem that you are faced with. He basically goes into the fact that maybe you might come up with 2 easily, the other 8 are going to be hard. But eventually, if you do this every time you have a situation to resolve, you will find that your ideas will become sharper and more focused than when you started this technique. The next thing he says to do is to respect the entities you work with. He goes into some precautions. You can read all that when you get the book. Under the heading Goals and Results, what is it that I want the entity to do? How will the entity accomplish this task? What variables do I need to factor in so that the entity is successful? What is my timetable? How do I ensure the entity is doing the task? How do I wish the entity to appear to me? So, those are some of the questions he answered. An important question to ask yourself is the following. Is it worth it to conjure the entity and have it do the task? Or are there other means to achieve my ends? Now, it may seem odd to ask this question in this book, but it is a very important and valid question to ask. It is not to say you shouldn't create entities, but you should be certain that it is justified. Now, he also said, if you are one who likes to experiment, then your justification is just that. In order to learn more about entities, you work with them. So he's saying that's okay. But you need to be clear that that's what you want to do. So you basically an experiment, or you want to know something. You just basically want to be a scientist, which is fine. What he's saying is just know, you have to know that that's what you're doing it for, and state that. All right. So he goes into all these things in detail. He has like a whole chapter on all of them. And when I say chapter, I mean like 2 or 3 pages. Like choosing a name. I already talked about housing it. You can put it in a Dow. That's what this new movie Annabelle is pretty much about. I haven't seen it. I'm just looking at the previews. Something with blood. I'll do a thing on what blood does also. But we'll go into feeding. So determine the source of energy of feeding. One of them was about feeding. So I'll just go into that feeding time. Energy of some form or another has to be supplied in order for any entity to exist. Entities feed off energy, much like we eat and drink. Feeding the entity need not to be too difficult. There are 2 common ways that the entity can receive energy. The first is to feed an entity from your personal energy, and the second is to have it feed from an energy source external to you. When you first create an entity, an amount of your energy is used to give life to the entity. You can continue to be the sole source of energy if you would like to have an entity totally dependent on you for its existence. The way that you could feed your entity energy from you is to talk to it daily. Another way is to offer it devotional plates of food. Of course, the entity will not eat the physical food, but rather it will feed off the essence of the food. Basically, any attention that you give to the entity can serve as an energy feeding. So I've talked about this before, about the offering, even on your altar you can put food. I know we probably mocked when we go into these, especially the ladies going to nail shops, anyone with Asian, the Eastern people, they leave grapes and stuff below the Buddha statue. So I never understood it when I was young, before I got into this stuff. But they crazy. The thing is, the statue can't be eaten, the grapes or whatever have you. But now you get the idea. So I never really talked about adopting a tree. So if you get into the Wiccan stuff, Wiccans or witches, they really into the natural stuff. So you might, so don't be afraid of witchcraft. It's pretty much they deal with all nature stuff, like adopting trees. You can adopt a tree by feeding it food and talking to it every day, and eventually the tree will talk back. Not physical talk, but I don't want you to think I'm crazy, but I'm just saying you will be able to communicate. You'll sense. Alright. I think that's it. Yeah, so I don't want to go anymore. Like I said, you should just get the book. He's going to go into detail all these different bullet points. I touched on some of the movies that cover this subject. But once again, this is your book. Anywhere between $10 and $15 after you pay for shipping and handling. Or if some of you might have a Kindle, David Michael Cunningham. Alright. So I apologize for all the reading, but I felt that was the best way to do it. And just to give you an idea, just to get you at least interested in it. But teaching it, I wouldn't be able to do you any justice. Like I showed you how to do a sigil, I wouldn't be able to do you any justice by showing you how to do each of these steps. The video would be a waste of time. So just go and get the book. It's real simple. It's thin. It's not even that big. It's like a little pamphlet. To be exact, it's like 100 pages. Alright. Hope you enjoy it. Alright. Today's lecture is about Jacob's Epiphany. We'll be referring to the Bible, Genesis chapter 32, verses 24 through verse 32. First of all, I just want to let you know that this story is an allegory. I'm going to now define allegory. Allegory is a symbolic work in which characters and events are to be understood as representing other things and symbolically expressing a deeper, often spiritual, moral, or political meaning. So it's not to be taken literally. So this story is not to be taken literally. So I'm going to summarize the literal parts of it. First of all, Jacob wrestled with a man. Never identified a man, and the man doesn't have a name. The man then renames Jacob Israel after Jacob wrestles with him and wins all night. He wrestles with him all night and wins. So in the morning, he named him Israel. Israel then calls the place where this took place Peniel land in one sentence, and in the very next sentence, he changes the spelling
from having an IEL to a UEL. So just read that verse for yourself. Either Google it or you can look into the Bible itself. He then refers to the mystery man as God, as he's seen the face of God. So that's the story. Read it for yourself. Today's brief lecture will focus on the allegorical pineal land. The rest may be revisited in another video. You can also study on your own, such as Esau represents the animals, the animal desires or thoughts that man has. That's Jacob's brother. Jacob represents the higher thoughts or the soul. Jacob's ladder, for example, means it's the spine. Represents allegorically as the spine. So that may be discussed in another video. Right now, we're gonna refer to the pineal gland as being the pineal gland. So let's define epiphany. You can refer to this. You can pause the video or write it down. I'm going to talk about it anyway. Epiphany is the appearance or vision of God or divine being. It's also defined as a sudden realization or intuitive understanding. Alright, once again, it's an appearance or vision of God or some divine being is one definition. Another definition is a sudden realization or intuitive leap of understanding. Now, this word epiphany comes from the word epiphysis. Well, I should say vice versa. Epiphysis comes from the word epiphany. There is a gland in your brain called the epiphysis gland. It's better known as the pineal gland. Now, what I'm trying to get you to understand, you need to correlate pineal, P-I-N-E-A-L, is the same as what Jacob called pineal land and pineal land. I know it's spelled different, but you got to see in the Bible, if P-E-N-U-E-L and P-E-N-I-E-L means the same thing, it shouldn't be far-fetched to understand that P-I-N-E-A-L means the same thing. Vowels are always interchangeable. Because back in old languages, they didn't have vowels. They only had consonants. Now, if that's not going to convince you, let me define pineal and pineal as defined in the Bible. It means face of God, vision of God, understanding of God, within the presence of God. So if you go back to the epiphany definition, it means appearance or vision of God. That's one of the definitions of pineal land. It means intuitive leap of understanding. Isn't that one of the definitions of pineal or pineal land as said on this page? Alright. So pineal gland, he's allegorically pineal land and pineal land is allegorically referring to the pineal gland or the epiphanous gland, because Jacob got an epiphany once he wrestled with the angel all night, which turned out to be God. He got named Israel. The name Jacob means supplanter or to replace. Sometimes it means liar in wait. So he's lying in wait or heel puller. So he supplanted God and became Israel. Israel means to contend with God, to prevail with God, and wrestle with God. So that's what he did. He became Israel. So he supplanted God once he won and became Israel, which means three lights. You got Isis, which is moonlight, the sun god Ra, which is sunlight. El really means stars or light or power. It doesn't really mean God. The Canaanites call El God, but it really means light or power, or it can refer to the stars. So you have Isis, which is the moon, Ra, which is the sun god, and El, which are the stars. So sun, moon, and star. So he became illuminated or enlightened once he seen the face of God, after he wrestled with God and seen the face of God. He had an epiphany. An epiphany because he seen a vision of God. He was in God's presence with his epiphysis gland. Alright? So now I'm going to summarize. Basically, this is an allegorical story. Let me flip this over. This is an allegorical story about pure thoughts or angels climbing up and down, ascending and descending up the spine, which is called Jacob's ladder, illuminating the pineal gland, which he calls pineal land or pineal land. Therefore, supplanting, which is Jacob, mundane or earthly thoughts, which is Esau, his brother, with enlightening or illuminated thoughts, which is Israel. So Israel means light. So he basically became enlightened once he wrestled with God all night and got renamed. So it's just basically a story about how you have to wrestle with your animal flesh and animal thoughts, mundane thoughts like paying my bills, thinking about earthly things, and become high and trust God and supplant God. Basically take on the mind of God. You're not taking God's place, but you're sharing in the mind of God. Alright, so some of the references you can use is, of course, the Holy Bible. You can use any dictionary online. Same thing with the Bible. You can go online and just Google Genesis chapter 32, verses 24 to 32. You can also Google any definition just by typing in the name and push define after it. Go on Wikipedia. It's another reference. I also use a metaphysical Bible dictionary, which will give you the story about all the different names, what they mean, and the stories, what they mean metaphysically. So meta means beyond the physical. That means spiritual or allegorically. So you can get a metaphysical Bible dictionary by Charles Fillmore. Charles Fillmore. Filmore. Alright, thank you. That's a short video. More to come that's going to be related or semi-related to this subject. Alright, welcome back. Today's video is entitled Hebrew Israelite equals pineal gland. So you can take a look at this board, copy it down, you can pause it, I'll refer to it after I get to talking. Alright. So calling yourself a Hebrew is basically synonymous with a man named Eber, E-B-E-R. You can just Google it and look at it on Wikipedia. He's an ancestor of the Israelites according to the Table of Nations. So you can go to the Table of Nations. That's what it's so-called in Genesis chapter 10 and chapter 11, or 1 Chronicles chapter 1. Most scholars mention that Hebrews got their name from Eber. Even the Hebrew name, Hebrew language, was named from him because he refused to help with the building of the Tower of Babel. So you can just study all that for yourself. I just want to make the correlation between calling yourself a Hebrew and the man named Eber. So calling yourself a Hebrew basically comes from the person called Eber. An Israelite is just basically the enlightened. If you watch my previous video, Israel just means the three lights, sun, moon, and stars, or just means enlightening or light in general. Alright. So now let's just focus on, like I said, the name Eber. Alright, most Hebrew names are spelled with only 3 Hebrew letters. Like Adam is only spelled with 3 letters, like Aleph, Daleth, and Mem. So Eber has Ayin for the E, Beth for the B. There are really no vowels. It has to start off with a silent letter, so that's what the Ayin is. But Beth, so this E doesn't really exist. It's really E-V-R, and Resh. So if you translate it, if you go look up the Hebrew alphabet, which I think you should study, and I'll do a video on it. Ayin translate to eye, Beth translate to house, Resh translate to head. So once you get to studying the alphabet, you're going to learn that each letter not only represents a thing, it also has a number value. So when you get into what's called gematria, that's another study. So I put future study at the bottom. You want to study the endocrine system, the pineal gland, melanin, the Hebrew alphabet, which are all 22 letters. So there are 3 mother letters, 7 double letters, 12 simple letters. That's where you get the 3 Trinity, 7 for your 7 chakras, 12 for the 12 disciples. We'll talk about that in another video. So gematria is another subject. Just want to look up. So get ready for the upcoming videos. Alright, so back to this one. So the pineal gland is called the third eye. The pineal gland is referred to as a third eye, aside from the 2 you already have, that's housed in the head. So basically, if you call yourself a Hebrew Israelite, Hebrew is synonymous with Eber, which is the eye in the head. So Hebrew, that part of it is the pineal gland. The Israelite part added onto it is an enlightened pineal gland. So everyone has a pineal gland. Some of us, if we don't use it, it becomes calcified. Certain races are born with that pineal gland already calcified. So just do a further study on the pineal gland. This is just a pretty short video. You're going to notice that all my videos are going to end up lined up with the pineal gland and what it secretes, which is melanin, and the importance of the central nervous system and everything. Alright, so that's a pretty short video. Get ready for the next video. I'm going to probably be talking about logos, how the medical symbol and the eye of Horus also has to do with the pineal gland, and so on and so forth. Alright, thank you. Alright, welcome back. Today's lecture is going to be about the number 666 as it occurs in the Bible. It's the number of the beast, which I'm going to show you that it means melanin is the beast, and man, which means male and female. Alright, so I'm going to start off by reading from Revelations chapter 3, verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and his number is 666. What you may not know is 666 only occurs in the Bible 3 times. If you go to Ezra chapter 2 verse 13, it's referring to a man and how many children he had. He had 666 children. 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 14 refers to the talents of gold Solomon amassed every year. When I do a video about Santa Claus later on, we're going to talk about gifts and talents and what that means, and gold, what that has to do with chakras. So later on in another video, I'm going to talk about talents and Santa Claus, how the whole Santa Claus story is about the pineal gland and melanin. The only so-called negative reference was the above in Revelations, when it referred to the number 666 as being some type of beast. Alright, so here's the understanding. First, let's deal with man. So man means human, which is like the word Adam means male and female. So all humans are referred to as carbon-based life forms. In fact, without carbon, biological molecules would not be able to bond, and the body would be a formless heap of loose atoms. Carbon comes from the Latin word carbo, meaning coal or charcoal. It is present in all known physical life forms. Carbon-12 accounts for 98.89% of all carbon. Why do I bring up carbon-12? Because the number 12 is its mass number. And that means it has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. So now you have the number of man. Now let's discuss the beast. Now, the beast is melanin. Melanin comes from the Greek word melos, meaning black. You know, they're going to make everything black, negative. So you watch any movies, and the movie about blah, this is really about melanin. Melanin is very chaotic, so that's why I have the chaos symbol. That symbolizes melanin. They're not going to tell you that, but whenever they do anything about chaos, they're really talking about melanin. Or anything in these movies about something black, that they're talking about melanin. Black people have more melanin within them than other races. White people, Caucasians, really have little to no melanin, and their pineal gland is pretty much calcified. So the pineal gland is what secretes melanin. Let me see what I'm talking about. Melanin is the chemical key to life, and it's the nucleus or brain of all cells. It is produced by the pineal gland or third eye, and is activated by sunlight. So, you know, they tell you Caucasians don't want to go out in the sun because of skin cancer. It has nothing to do with you. I just want to show you the book. If you really want to read up more on melanin and the difference between the different races, you can go to a book by Layla Africa called Melanin, What Makes Black People Black. Okay, so now, melanin is an organic, I'm stressing the word organic, dark, chemical, liquid pigment substance. Organic means containing all compounds of carbon. Carbon, once again, 666. So now you know. Melanin is the beast. Man is made up of carbon, and so is melanin. And we also contain melanin. Melanin is responsible for our skin color, the color of our eyes. So we were born into skin, not sin. Remember, these stories in the Bible are allegories, not to be taken literally. We weren't born into skin. We weren't born into sin. We all started off as light beings, or just souls that came down. Earth is actually hell. So we fell into skin, not sin.
And that skin is made out of carbon, which is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. So what makes this melanin a beast? It's a beast because melanin absorbs all colors. It's like a cellular black hole. Like once color enter, it cannot escape. Melanin is concentrated colors. It's similar to the black hole that's in outer space. So all the black holes, everything in outer space is also made out of melanin. Chlorophyll is the melanin of plants. So that green substance is actually the melanin of plants. The human eye can only see colors that are reflected away from an object. So if an object appears black in color, that means that object is absorbing all colors except black. Alright. Just looking through my notes to make sure I get everything. Alright. So I mentioned that it was an organic liquid pigment substance. Liquid because all 5 of our systems, when you hear something, the cells transform into a liquid form, which is melanin, and that liquid goes to the brain and sends that message. Whether you're touching something, tasting something, feeling something, it all gets converted into melanin, into a liquid form, which is melanin. What else? So the reason why melanin is chaotic, because creation is already defined. So when we became men, that's what we became. But before creation, there's chaos. So chaos is potential energy. That means it has the potential to be anything. One of the things that scientists, white scientists in particular, since they lack melanin, they try to make substances that make up for this. I don't know if I mentioned that Viagra was actually an accident. They was trying to make synthetic melanin, and when they made it, the pill they realized it actually gave you erections. So just a little FYI. Also, if you want to visit, when you get cremated, your ashes is actually reduced to carbon. That's how they date everything. Everything is carbon dated. That's how they know how old fossils are. But they got websites called DNA with the number 2 to diamonds, because diamonds are actually made out of carbon also. They can make you, if they cremate you, they send your animals on that, but they actually, I believe, kidnapping or taking people and cremating them and making their ashes into diamonds. So just something to look into. So if you don't believe me, just go into the website. They're going to only talk about making animals, cremating animals, and using their hair and their ashes to make diamonds. But they can do it to humans also, because we're also made out of carbon. I think I've pretty much covered everything. So just to summarize, melanin is the beast. We'll talk more about melanin. We're going to keep discussing melanin and the pineal gland in all my videos. I already showed you the book, but I'll go to the back and summarize it with the pineal gland secretes melanin. Melanin converts into serotonin. Look up serotonin. It's the brain cell when you anoint your head during daylight at time. So this is the whole Christ thing. You anoint your head, your third eye. During the daytime, you secrete serotonin. That's the hormone you secrete. At nighttime, you secrete melatonin. All this is dependent on sunlight, so you need sunlight. You need to go out. That's why we get, in the wintertime, we get what they call SAD, or seasonal affective disorder, because of the lack of sunlight, because we're not stimulating our pineal gland. Caucasians are born with a calcified pineal gland. This is actually the master gland, but they're going to tell you in all the medical books that the pituitary gland is the master gland. It's not true. They only concerned with what works in them. So since this is calcified in them, and they lack melanin, they don't want to call this the master gland. So they have secret words, and they put it in different movies, and they reference it as being something evil, like the Blob was all about melanin, the little blob going down the street. So anything evil or chaotic that they can't control, and they can't synthesize it. They tried to make a synthesize. I told you they made Viagra a mistake because of this. Alright, so here's some of your references. Use the Bible, Wikipedia, and the book I showed you. Alright, thank you. Alright, hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about the allegories of Adam and Eve and Pentecost and how they tie in together. Alright, so if you go to Genesis 1, verses 26 and 27, it'll say, God, let us make man. So that us, that'll be another lecture. But the part I want to point out is man. They substitute the word Adam for man. So just want you to know, Adam means male and female, where it refers to male and female. Adam actually means red or reddish. Eve actually means life or living.
But in this case, they translated the word Adam to mean refer to male and female. If you go to Genesis 2, it's a whole separate creation story. In Genesis 1, he created everything first, and then male and female at the same time. So he created the herbs, and then he created the animals, and then he created he, them, male and female in Genesis 1. In Genesis 2, first he made the garden, which had all the herbs. Then he made just the male, which was Adam. And then he made animals, because Adam was lonely. He told him to pick a mate out of the animals. Read it for yourself. And Adam wasn't pleased, so he caused him to sleep and took a rib from him and made a female counterpart, which name was Eve. Eve also has another name called, I pronounce it as Hava, H-A-V-A-H. You can probably look at it in the footnote. Sometimes it's spelled with a C. Some Hebrew words like Hanukkah actually have a silent C, so you might see Chanukah or Hanukkah. But Hava, H-A-V-A-H, we're going to go into the Tetragrammaton, which means four-letter word. So, you know, the God of the Old Testament was called, they called him Yahweh, but it's Yod, He, Va, He. So actually, Eve is actually 3 letters of the 4 letters. So that's another lecture. I just want to point that out. So you go ahead and study Tetragrammaton on your own, and then when we get to that video, you already know something. All right. So this is an allegory for meiosis. Meiosis is a type of cell division that only deals with making sperm and egg cells. The opposite of that is mitosis. So mitosis make all the other cells, which give us the human body. So this is a story of meiosis. So I'm going to read from a book called The Flower of Life. I'll spell the author's name. Drunvalo Melchizedek. D-R-U-N-V-A-L-O. Melchizedek. M-E-L-C-H-I-Z-E-D-E-K. So Drunvalo Melchizedek. D-R-U-N-V-A-L-O. Melchizedek. It's 2 volumes. The Flower of Life. It's a purple book with a Flower of Life symbol on it. Alright, so I'm going to read. So all life starts off as a circle, as a sphere. So that's a female egg. It starts off as a circle. It contains 22 plus 1 chromosomes. So now we're going to go to sperm. Starts off as a little worm with a tail. What happens is the sperm penetrates the egg. The tail just disappears. It breaks off. And what happens is the head of the sperm cell actually becomes the same size as the nucleus of the female egg. Because inside that circle, that ovum, is a little egg, just like a chicken egg. You got the egg is round, but inside it is the yolk. So that yolk is the nucleus. So inside the female, there's also a nucleus. The sperm head actually becomes the same size. After that happens, they pass between each other and they form this thing called the vesica Pisces. You can look that up. That's in sacred geometry tree. You might have seen a fish. So the MasterCard symbol. So when 2 circles meet, they make this middle piece. But that's the little fish everyone has representing Jesus. So it's the vesica Pisces. You can look that up on your own. That's another lecture. So they cross each other and then they end up going right on top of each other. So that's when a human zygote is formed. When they directly, evenly on top of each other. So that's where you get the word Eve. The reason why Adam is an allegory for this process, and so is Eve, I just told you, is when the sperm and the egg becomes even, it becomes a zygote. So that's what the word Eve or even, and life begins. Because now you have 44, what did I say, 22? You have 44 plus 2 chromosomes. So now you have what we call DNA. That's all your genetic code right there. So that's DNA. So from that, the messenger of DNA or angel of DNA is ribonucleic acid. So that's the rib they're referring to. So when they took the rib of Adam, or male and female. So this is male and female together. It makes DNA. So your DNA, this is 4 proteins, A, G, C, T. That's also the Tetragrammaton. That's another allegory for Yod, He, Wav, He. Because remember I told you, HWH is actually another word for Eve. So you can look that up on yourself. Sometimes it's spelled H-A-W-A-H or H-A-V-A-H for Eve. Without the Yod, it's just it's known as referring to Eve. With the Yod, it's referring to Yahweh. All right. So the rib is really RNA. So this is all an allegory for how the sperm penetrates the egg and becomes a zygote, a human zygote, Z-Y-G-O-T-E. So look that up for yourself, and the 2 cells become even. The sperm and the egg cell become even. Reason why Adam is red or reddish, because you notice that when a woman is on her menstrual cycle, the blood clots in order for her to get pregnant. Yes, I know women still sometimes bleed when they're pregnant, but that's because that's a whole other lecture on the food and different things that's changed and the chemicals and everything. But in general, most women don't come on a period when they're pregnant. So that's where the red comes in, the blood clotting and so on and so forth. So Adam, and in Hebrew, Adam is spelled with 3 words. If you look at my other video about Hebrew and Eber, most Hebrew names are spelled with 3 letters. I just said Eve was spelled with a H-W-H. This is spelled with the Aleph, Daleth, and a Mem, an A-D, and an M, without the other vowel. So the word damn that everybody made into a bad word really means blood. So when you take that one letter off, damn means blood. So that's when it became a curse word, because you're basically damning someone. Just FYI, it has nothing to do with this allegory. So that's meiosis. Mitosis is when we are born into skin. So mitosis is this process. We all start off as an atom, Adam, and an atom. So that's what this really is. This is about us starting off as an atom. An atom is just the smallest part of an element. We go from an atom to a molecule. Molecules make a cell. Cells make tissue. Tissue make organs. Organs make organ systems. And then organ systems, of course, make the human body. So one of the organ systems is the skin. So the skin, remember the Bible tried to scare you and say we were all born into sin. No, we started off as an atom. Or as light beings. We just started off as light. We fell into skin. Everyone is born into skin. And then mitosis starts. Alright? Now, another thing you need to know is, I don't know if I have never seen one. I've never seen a pregnant man. So why would God make a woman come from a man initially, and then everybody after that, everyone, it's women giving birth to men? Makes no sense. So I want to give you another fact. And we're going to go into Pentecost now. The word Pentecost actually means count 50. Penti means 50. Cost means count. But they call it the 50th day. In the Old Testament, they use it as, you can go to Exodus 23, verse 16, or Numbers 28, verse 26. They use it as when Moses got the 10 Commandments, and also something else. Read it for yourself. In the New Testament, the Christians use it as when the Holy Ghost descended upon the disciples and the 120 followers of Jesus. They call it the birth of the church. So that's what they call. That's what they say. So Hebrew Israelites, they celebrate these feasts and everything in the Old Testament. For 7 weeks, they use one feast every week. So if you know any Hebrew Israelites, you know they have those feasts, or Jews. Acts, as far as the New Testament, it's Acts 2, verses 1 through 4. Alright, so that's what they want to tell you what the Pentecost means, but it's really allegorical for what happens 50 days after the 50th day. 7 weeks after conception, that's when a fetus becomes an embryo. A fetus becomes an embryo around 7 weeks. Also, your third eye goes from the roof of your mouth up into your head where it stays permanently. And the next thing that happens, because I told you, everything starts off as female. It starts off as a circle, as an egg. Also, that's when a male is formed. You either stay female. We all start off as female. You can ask any doctor. We all start off genetically or anatomically. The word, if you look at the word anatomy, which is the study of the body, it says an atom. The words is right in the word anatomy, an atom. So we all start off as a female. We don't turn into a male till around the 50th day after conception, or we just remain female. That's why I put that asterisk right there. So that's what Pentecost is really about. They celebrate it as 50 days after Easter or 50 days after Passover. That's really astrology, after the sun passes over the equator. And that's another lecture also. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I gave you my references. Of course, I used the Bible. I showed you the Flower of Life. You can also get you a metaphysical dictionary, once again, Charles Fillmore. An anatomy book to study up on mitosis, meiosis, and other stuff, and DNA and RNA. So further study what the Vesica Pisces is, or go into sacred geometry. Also study the Tetragrammaton. And I think that's it. The rib is ribo. Okay. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for more. Alright, we're back again for another short lecture. Today's lecture is going to be about Genesis 49 and the 12 tribes, and how there really are allegories for the 12 men of the zodiac. If you look at the word Mazaroth, it's a Bible word. It means zodiac or men of the zodiac. So Mazaroth is also, that word is also in Genesis. So I'm going to start off by showing you in Genesis 5 how all you have to do is translate a Hebrew name into an English name, and you might get a hidden message. In Genesis 5, you're going to see a list of a genealogy list of men's names. So you're not going to see this, but I'm going to read this. You go to Genesis 5, and you're going to see the list of the names. And if you translate those names, you should come out with the same sentence. Man is appointed mortal sorrow, but the blessed God shall come down teaching that his death shall bring the despairing comfort. Just for example, Noah's name means comfort or comforter. So now let's go to Genesis 49. If you read it yourself, you can translate each name. Some of the stuff you can, some scholars disagree. Like the word Levi means attached or combined. So they just make Levi, Gemini by itself. But if you read Genesis 49, it says Simeon, Simon, and Levi were brethren. They're all brothers. Because if you don't know, Jacob had sex with an elder sister named Leah and her slave, and the younger sister named Rachel and her slave. So he had sex with 4 women and begat all these children. So this is the patriarch of the Hebrew Israelites, because Jacob later on became Israel. So keep in mind, he had sex. You're going to take this story literally, and you named your religion off of him. He had sex with 4 women, 2 sisters, and their 2 slaves. So these 12 tribes represent the 12 zodiacs. So some people have it differently. I'm going to keep Simon and Levi together, because if you read Genesis 49, it says the brethren. They're all brothers. So that's going to leave me, if you're smart enough right now, you can get me in a lie and say, well, hell, that leaves us only 11 zodiac, because you're taking away one of the men. So we're going to get to the end. You're going to read that Judah is a lion's whelp, certain stuff like that. You might hear Joseph he's an archer, archer with a bow. So that's the Sagittarius, the man on the horse with the archer. What you may not know, because this Western religion likes to exclude women, is they also had only one daughter. She was actually raped. So you can find her in Genesis 46, verse 15. She represents the Virgo. So she's going to be the 12th zodiac sign. Alright, so that's all I want to say about that. If it's anything you don't like or don't understand, feel free to leave comments. This is not necessarily for the religious mind. You can believe, you can take these stories literally if you like. I'm not here to argue, but if you do, just click not like. Please leave a comment and tell me what you don't like, or I'm always willing to learn. So feel free to leave a comment or teach me something new. But this is my so far what I've come up with. I'm not an expert. I'm a personal trainer and a massage therapist. So I deal strictly with the body and so on and so forth. So thank you, and hope you enjoy. The next video we're going to talk about the same thing with the 12 disciples. This all relates to like Hercules and his 12 labors. It's all the same stuff. It's not as easy as decoding the 12 tribes, because at least with the 12 tribes you have stuff like the lion's whelp of Judah, so you know that's a Leo. Dan is a serpent, so you know that's Scorpio. But you will have to actually translate the names of the 12 disciples to get, like for instance, Philip means lover of horse, so that would be Sagittarius like Joseph. And Thomas the disciple means twin, so that would take the place of Simon and Levi, which is Gemini. Alright, thank you. See you on the next video. Alright, welcome back. Today's discussion is going to be about burying the N-word. Most people associate the word nigger with slavery without ever questioning what the word meant. They always argue it's such a bad word only because it was used in conjunction with slavery. So their main argument is it should be buried because it's attached to slavery. But what I find interesting, especially when you're a Christian, most Christians, they would not bury the J word, which is Jesus, even though the first slave ship was a ship called Jesus. So when you make that argument, they kind of shy away from it. But since everyone is not a Christian, I got to come a little bit more stronger, so that wouldn't bother anyone, because then most people know his real name was Yeshua, anyway, Yehoshua. So we're going to remove from that argument. So let me just tell you a couple of places where it's already buried. It's buried in Acts chapter 13, verse 1, when referring to a guy named Simon the nigger. Also, it's buried in your brain stem, in a part of your brain called the substantia nigra, which means a substantial amount of black stuff, or a lot of black stuff. So you want to look up substantia nigra. Also, when you get into the word nega, you're also dealing with the serpent or Naki, the Anunnaki. Anu was a sky god, but Naki and Nega, it was a serpent tribe. So when we deal with the serpent, like those two snakes that goes up the medical symbol. So when I do a video on logos, you'll know what I'm talking about. But that's located in your back. That's sometimes called Kundalini or Uraeus energy. When it comes up from your spine, it goes out your forehead. So the purpose of these videos, if you're only seeing this one, check out the other ones. It's going to lead up to what we're going to do with this information once we overcome the zodiac and worshiping zodiacs and deities that we created, and for what reason. So I'm going to show you some of the words. So back in Western Africa, Niger meant king. Nigeria means queen. So what I believe, my theory is about white people and the slave masters. What they did was they named people based on what they thought they were. Just like they thought they were in India, so they named the Native Americans Indians. So I think maybe they did that with black folk. They think everybody came from Niger, so they just call them niggers. It's just a consequence of being whooped and everything. NGR back in Kim also means black land, Kemet. They changed, the Greek word is Egypt, but the original name was Kemet, KMT, which means the black land. So back in Kemet, NGR, remember no vowels was used back in the days. NGR meant God, sometimes given to names of pharaohs. So it came out to be Netger, or the Netters, the gods and goddesses. The Neteru are the gods and goddesses. So when you look at the Neterus, those are the deities that they claim that we worship. Nagus means king. Nagas means king of kings, or Nagashi means king. That was a term given to Haile Selassie. So you can look up Haile Selassie and these terms also. The word Niger or Niger comes from Latin. Negre is in French. All Negro in Spanish, they all mean black. So if these three words mean black and Negro means black, nigga and everything else can mean the same thing. So I just don't suggest you bury the word. The word is already buried. I just want to repeat, buried not only in your brain stem as substantia nigra, everyone's brain stem in your brain. It's also buried in your Bible, Acts 13. It's buried in your back in the form of serpents or kundalini energy. We'll get to that in another video. And the word just simply means black sometimes. It also means king. It means God. So what they're trying to get you to do is bury your God-given name and your birthright. Alright, I hope this video was interesting to you. If you have any comments, please leave them. Anything you'd like to add, I'm always open to learn more new stuff. Thank you. Alright, today I'll be discussing the Kabbalah Tree of Life. The word Kabbalah comes from the root word Kabal, which means to receive. It is said that a Jewish man, you have to be a man over 40 years old to even study this if you was in the Jewish religion. So this is Kabbalah 101, so we're going to talk about some of the basic things. It's going to be more to it in later videos. So right now I just want to discuss the basic things. There are 10 Sephirah or 10 emanations. 10 emanations. This 11th one is not a Sephirah, it's actually a gateway to another tree that's behind it. It's called the so-called Tree of Death, also known as the Kaliphoth. So the Kaliphoth is sometimes called the Tree of Death. We'll talk about that later. But it's called, that hidden Sephirah or gateway is called Dath in Hebrew, or knowledge in English. The word Kaliphoth actually means husk or shells. So it's trying to say it's the shell or the husk of this tree of life. Also, there are 22 lines or paths that connect each of the 10 emanations. Those 22 paths also correspond to the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. I'll do another video on the Hebrew alphabet and how to, according to the Book of Formation, you can study that also, the Book of Formation or the Sefer Yetzirah. It'll tell you how God used the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet to create the world that we know of as Earth. So I'll do a separate video on that called the Hebrew alphabet and the Matrix. Alright. So each Sephirah or emanation of God also corresponds to a different planet. So you can look at the planets, so you can pause the video and take these down. So number 1 is Neptune. The last one, I put Earth, although it's really, and like I said, this is 101, we'll talk about it later. It's really Saturn energy down here on Earth. That's where you get the word Satan. Satan rules.
but we'll talk about Saturn, because Saturn is the third Sephirah. So for now, we're just going to call it Earth to make it simple, since it's Kabbalah 101. Alright, so we talked about the 22 paths, the 10 Sephirah, the 3 pillars. Now you want to talk about the 4 worlds. So there are 3 worlds separated by this abyss. So the abyss that goes right through the line, that's where it's the gateway. If you notice, above the abyss, the upper triad is pointing up. This is the only triangle pointing up. The other 3 are pointed down. So 4, 5, 6 is pointing down, 7, 8, 9 is pointing down, and the last one where we are is pointed down. So you have 3 worlds pointed down and 1 world pointed up. The top world is called Ataluth, or the archetypal world. This is where all the archetypes and ideas come from. The second world, consisting of the next 3 Sephirah, is called the creative world. The third world is the formative world, or Yetzirah, the 7, 8, and 9. The last one is where we are, the physical world. It's called Asaya. These also correspond to 4 parts of the soul. So you have Chia, which is your identity. This is the true you up here. You're going to learn more. As you go down, as we fall into the skin, you're going to get more and more dense. So you're going to lose yourself into your ego. Ego is humanity, or your human body. So this is your soul. This is your true self, your identity. The next part of the soul is called Neshama, or intuition. The next one is Ruach. All these are Hebrew words, and this means intellect. This part is the animal soul, the Nefesh, or this is the instinct. So just to break down a little bit, it also corresponds to the Tetragrammaton. The Tetragrammaton is the 4-letter word for God. So you got Yod, He, Va, He. So they substitute the word Lord or Adonai and put vowel points on it. That's where you get the word Yahweh or Jehovah. So Yod also corresponds to fire, because this is the fire part of your soul. The next part is intuition. You know, intuition is water. So this is water. This one right here, intellect, is air. So that's what spirit is. Down here is earth, or material. Alright, so you got Yod, He, Va, He. So notice, on the top of the abyss, you have the Yod. Below the abyss, you got the HVH. If you looked at my other video, you'll know this is another name for Eve, EVE. So this is when we start living. This is what we think we call living. We're actually beginning to die once we're born into skin. But this is the word Hava, or Hawa, is a real name for Eve, which means living. And if you notice, if you read the Bible, you'll notice Abram had to receive an H, and he became Abraham. And his wife, Sarai, became Sarah. So that's a whole nother video on what earning this H is. It's really just meaning you're coming into a physical existence, or the material world. Okay, anything else I missed? Okay, up here you have the crown. The first Sephirah is the beginning. Above that is going to be 3 stages. One called Ayin, which is nothing. That's what God is. God exists in these 3 stages of nothingness. The second stage is called Ein Sof, or limitless. The third one is Ein Sof or limitless light. So those are the 3 stages. They also correspond to the 3 trimesters that a woman goes through, that children go through to be born into this world. So it represents the 3 trimesters: Ein Sof Or. So you can just study it. Just look this up. You can Google Kabbalah Tree of Life images, and you'll get all this stuff in detail. And I'll try to make another video to go in depth. I'm trying to keep it short and simple. So basically, the Kabbalah Tree of Life is a physical representation of how the source, or whatever you want to call it, I don't like to use the word God, but just say the source created him or herself, and then in turn created us. So we started off as souls, just light beings. We're basically just light and so a fire. And then as you fell into skin, we start to vibrate slower and slower. Once you vibrate slower, you become more and more gross and dense, and you fall into skin or the physical body. So if you look at my other video, you'll know that we're basically based in carbon. When you get down to Earth, we become carbon beings, which is 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. So that's where you get the whole 666. You're born into sin, and then Satan was cast down. Satan is really Saturn. I told you Saturn is actually the Saturn energy, because the planet Saturn, I'll go over the planets in another video also. Alright, so let me just stay on point. Make sure I don't miss anything else. Okay, so let's go back to the dark side. I told you I'll talk about that later. Alright, so the Kalipoth, or the dark side.
So this abyss right here, you might hear, remember I told you about the pathways. The pathway to get across, the pathway that comes from, to get from here to here, because you got to understand, we went this way to get down into skin. Well, we came on Earth for a reason, but you want to also make it back to the source. The quickest way is to go up this middle pillar. But in order to do that, or you can take the zigzag route. Some people say go through each one. You can zigzag back up. But nonetheless, to get from this one to this one, you have to cross the abyss. So this is what Masons are talking about when they say they got to cross the sand. But what you may not know is, or Dath. Remember I said Dath in Hebrew means knowledge in English. But in Greek it's gnosis, G-N-O. So that might be that G. Another reason for the G is geometry and other things. But that G means a lot on a symbol. I'll do a video on the Mason logo also. Also, the Hebrew letter for this path, remember each path has a Hebrew letter, is Gimel. Gimel means camel. So that's the camel. You got to cross the desert with the camel. So remember I told you, Mason's talking about crossing the sand. So the G can also stand for the camel, or the letter G, Gimel in Hebrew. So you can study that, and I'll bring up another video later. So I want to talk about the dark side. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, you should, for a better understanding. You'll notice that they try to make everything that's dark bad. Like I just told you, melanin, and we're carbon-based people. Since they're born, certain people born with calcified pineal glands and they lack melanin, they consider anything dark negative. And they also know if once you know about it, you're gonna get, that's your power. So the dark side, or Kaliphoth, isn't the shell of the tree of life. It's actually the power behind it. So it's the driving force. It's just like the analogy I can use, like whenever you hear the analogy, behind every great man there's a great woman. So you may see the man doing this and that and providing and all that, but he wouldn't be able to do that if the woman wasn't at home supporting him, taking care of the family, keeping home right, stuff like that, feeding him, giving him the energy to go. So that's the best analogy I can give you. We may see this physical part because that's all we do. We think through our ego since we fell down here. So we trying to get back and remember this. So that's what all my videos are basically going to be about. That's why I talked about the pineal gland and so much stuff. Pretty soon I'm going to give you videos on how to use magic to get back to where we started. You're noticing a lot of movies they're using, like for Dark Side, Thor, the latest one, number 2. They talk about this Aether or Kather that existed. So that energy that existed before people who lack melanin were created. So the original people have melanin, so they can't access this energy. That's why it's so dark to them. Star Trek, Into the Darkness, Transformers, The Dark Side of the Moon. One of the original ones was Star Wars. If you know the Star Wars, this is Darth Vader. Remember, he was the dark side. You have to go to the dark side and you have to use light. So this middle pillar, Return of the Jedi. Jedi comes from the word Djed, D-J-E-D. You need to look that up, D-J-E-D. That's Osiris' spine. This is the middle pillar, or the spine of Osiris. So that's what the movie, this is Darth Vader, or Doth, knowledge. Vader just means father. So this is the gateway. And the wisest Jedi of them all was called Yoda. That's what the Yod. We're trying to get back to be the widest. We are the Jedi. This is our spine. Everything is about the spine, the pineal gland, so on and so forth. So I'm trying to tie all these videos up. So remember, they made everything evil. The Sith, which was Set, because remember, in the Egyptian, Osiris' son, Horus, had to battle his uncle Set, which later became Satan in Christian mythology. So Set in Egyptian mythology became Sith in George Lucas's movie Star Wars. So what you need to start learning is the word etymology. So I'll just stick this up real quick. Whenever you look up a word, you want to type in etymology. You can do this online. So the word demon in Greek actually means divine power. They say on the dark side of the tree of death is where all the demons are, to avoid it. And you want to try to cross this. You can't cross it. You gotta go to your dark side before you even make it back to the source. So we'll talk about that later when we talk about magic. But the word demon in Greek means divine power. In Latin it means genius or numen. Numen means divine presence. So always look up etymology. Etymology is the study of the origin of words. Words like the word consider. If I ask you what consider means, you might mean give thought to. But the etymology, if you type in consider and etymology, it's going to tell you that it really means to consult the stars. A lot of stuff is about astrotheology, or what we call astrology. So I already made mention of the Jed is the Jedi,
or the middle pillar of the Kabbalah Tree of Life. Yoda is the Yod, or the upper three. So that's the only real you. That's the identity. That's the part of the soul. That's the only real part of you. Sith and Satan, the camel. I told you I'm doing a video on the three letters. I mean, on the Hebrew letters. There are 3 mother letters, 7 double letters, and 12 single letters. So the whole point of this is, you need to understand, a demon is nothing more than an unbalanced magnetic angel. Your thing is, you want to face your demons. You want to face your demons are nothing but your genius, your genies, the genie in the bottles, your genius, your genes, your DNA, etc., etc. It's just another word for your genes, your DNA. The Yod, Hey, Va, Hey is just another word for DNA. GTAC. So those 4 proteins that make up your body. So that's what this is all about. You starting off as a light man, you came down here for a reason, and now you want to learn and remember so you can get back. Alright, thank you. I try to make these videos less than 10 minutes. We almost going on 14. Hope I didn't miss anything. Like I said, look forward to other videos to explain a little bit more about this stuff. Thank you. And copy any of this before I let it. You can just pause it and copy any of this. Alright, movie mythologies. Movies are the new mythologies. Prior to them, we had plays such as Shakespeare. If you look at any of those plays, they use multiple characters really to represent different aspects of your body. A cartoon you can get is like Osmosis Jones. It had a whole bunch of different characters. The main character being Osmosis Jones. It was just basically talking about your chemical process inside your body. That's the way stories are told to us in an allegorical form. They basically use inanimate or what's the word I'm looking for? They basically use personification. They make things seem to have human qualities to tell the story, to get you to get a lesson out of it. So that's what these movies and plays. Prior to plays, we had allegories in the form of fairy tales or religious texts. And in the beginning, everything was more oral. Everything was orally given to everyone, like in the form of ghost stories and rituals. Most, if not all, movies use the Kabbalah Tree of Life as its blueprint. You need to view my video on the Kabbalah 101. You'll see how George Lucas used this blueprint to make Star Wars. I pointed out how Doth, or knowledge, is where he got Darth Vader from, and Into the Dark Side. This is another tree behind here. This is Luke Skywalker. Skywalker is the sun. That represents the sun. The Sith, or the demons on the dark side, are actually Set or Satan, so on and so forth. So if you're not familiar with the Kabbalah Tree of Life, you might want to watch that video first, and then you'll get an introduction on how movies are made off of this blueprint. Alright. So theology is the study of God. So the word mythology to me means my theology. Because to me, ye are all gods and goddesses, children of the Most High, the source. So mythology is really just another word of saying the study of you, not myth. Myth has such a negative connotation to it. So the stigma is myth means false or not true. So so what they try to do is make it like all our mythologies, all our stories are mythologies, and the Bible, which is just another allegory. It's the same stories. All these movies, all these fairy tales, all the stories in the Bible, even Egyptian stories are the same. It's going to be some Christ figure that you're going to see, because now we're going to discuss the Inception movie. So it's going to be a Christ figure. It's going to be some type of redeemer. It's going to be some type of bad guy or Satan, something like that. So the easiest way to decode these allegories, say for instance, if you want to go to the biblical allegory, since we're talking about the Bible, Jesus representing the Son, the S-U-N of man, that makes the 12 disciples the zodiac. The easiest way to decode these allegories is to decipher their name. So for instance, if you look at one of the disciples' name is Tom, they mixed in this name with the Lord. So in the Bible, you never see this name. You're gonna see Lord, Lord. So that's really basically what I'm trying to get you at is that's gonna be Dominic's character. Another main character is named Mr. Sato. He's gonna be Satan or Saturn. So remember, Saturn dwells in this third Sephirah, and the Saturn energy is down on Earth. So you got to look at the Kabbalah 101 to understand that a little bit more, and I'll explain that in another video also. So
Another character is Dominic's wife, or the Lord's wife, is named Mal. It may be short for Mallory, but they never quite called her Mallory. What reason why they did that on purpose so that you can know this is a Kabbalah story. The last Sephirah, the 10th one, is called Malkuth. It's called English. In English, it's called Kingdom, but really it's a feminine Sephirah because it's actually a mirror image of the female Bina, which is understanding. So Malkuth is actually Mal, his wife. Remember, they were stuck down here for 50 years. The movie starts off about him being charged with murder. He can't see his children. Dominic, the Lord can't see his children anymore, and his 2 children are with his father-in-law, which is Mal's father. So Mal and him created this world where they were aged for like 50 years. They went up, and she thought that world, she was down there so long that when they went up to a higher level and they noticed not even 3 hours had passed, she thought she was still dreaming. She was so in love with this physical world that she wanted to go back. So she said, I'm dreaming. I'm going to kill myself. She tried to persuade the Lord to kill himself, or Dominic to kill himself also. He wouldn't. So what she did was framed him and jumped out the window and made it look like he killed her. So he was on a run. So he couldn't go back and see. He had to flee the United States. Just look at the plot. You can go on Wikipedia, type in Inception and film, and it'll give you the plot, the names of the characters, and then you can follow along with this video. So Mal, Sato, and Dominic. So we got those 3 out the way. Now the story, what Sato wants the Lord to do is implant an idea in the subconscious of this guy named Robert Fisher Jr. Robert Fisher Sr. is dying. You're going to notice that most all these mythologies are always going to have a dead father, or like Osiris, or somebody in the underworld, or somebody who's in heaven, like our father, like Jesus' father was in heaven, but he had a earthly father, which was Joseph, just like the Superman story. He had a father back in his planet, and then on Earth he had his Kevin Costner in the new Superman movie adopted him or whatever have you. So what's happening is it's always going to be a father that's dying or dead. So notice the last name is Fisher. So he's playing the Christ figure, or a fisherman, the fisher of men. So the same Jesus character. So he's going to be the Jesus character. What Satan wants the Lord to plant an idea in Christ's head to ignore the will of his father and become his own man. So just watch the plot. That's what it's all about. The whole movie is about the Fisher Senior. Robert Fisher is an energy is Satan's competitor. He has an energy company. He's Satan's biggest competitor. Jesus' father is. So he wants Jesus to ignore the will of his father because he's trying to X out his competition. So this whole movie is about taking over this energy, being the king of energy. Same thing with Star Wars. Star Wars, it was all about the light and winning with the lightsaber. That's your energy. So when I make the videos on magic and what these videos are really all leading up to, you're going to understand light and energy and why it's so important. Alright, so another character, and keep in mind, like, remember I said his father-in-law had the 2 children. So this is where they up here. He can't see his children because he can't get past this abyss. So up here's where his children are. This is where the school of architects are. So architects make their own universe. So we're gods and goddesses. So we make our own world, and we come down here on purpose. The problem is we get down here and we forget, and we get stuck on our ego or our humanity. So it's a school up here which was taught by his father-in-law. The Lord could no longer make this because he was stuck down here, and he was stuck on his wife and memories of his wife. So he had to get a student from his father-in-law's school. Her name was Ariana or something like that. If you to call her name means the most holy one. She was good at making labyrinths. A labyrinth is another word for your brain. So it's basically changing your brain, your physical brain. So based on the character in the Greek mythology, that helped this guy named Theseus defeat the Minotaur, and just look up her name. She helped him defeat the Minotaur and get out the labyrinth by giving him some string. A labyrinth, whenever you see a word labyrinth in a movie, it's talking about the brain, all on the lines, a maze in your brain. So her name means most holy one. So he needed the most holy one. The Lord needed the most holy one to assist him as an architect to build this, to trick the Jesus figure. Now, I know it sounds bad, or you're going against the will of the Father and all that, but basically this is what we really need to learn about ourselves. You're going to have to learn that you have to be your own man and stop worshiping. You are really a God in yourself. You came from the same source as every other energy. Everything is energy. This is just energy vibrating so slow that it becomes hard and materialized down here. But we really are energy from the same source. We're basically a part of the one mind, the one God, the one air, whatever you want to call it. So that's what this whole movie is really trying to tell you. To reconsider your Father's will and become your own man. But throughout the movie, based on towards the end of the movie, what happened was actually that Jesus and Satan actually got caught in what they call limbo in the movie. So that can be termed as the abyss. They fell into this dark world when they were stuck. And remember, the Lord had to go back in there and get them. So he had to face what he had did wrong by being stuck on Mount. And he had to go in there, and finally he let go of his ego, and that's how he was released. So more, let me see, is there anything more? Oh, another character was the chemist, the guy who administered the drugs to put you deep into sleep. That's a representation of alchemy. If you want to study alchemy, Chem is the word. They turned the Greek word into Egypt, but Chem means black land. So that's where you get the word chemistry and alchemy. So alchemy is another process that you use to free your soul and get back to where you started. So he represented alchemy. I told you about the Father on earth. So, you know, Jesus' figure also had a godfather who played the role as father since his father was dying, played by Tom Berenger. And I think that's it. So, yeah. So, in the end, the movie ends with him successfully getting Satan and the Jesus figure out of limbo, supposedly, and he was able. Satan went on and rewarded him and let him go and see his family. So it ended with him going to an airport. Whenever you're dealing with an airport, you're dealing with a different. You're dealing with airplanes, so you're on different planes. So these are 4 different planes. So he's basically trying to go to another plane, which is the highest plane. And they always use Los Angeles. Whenever you see Los Angeles in the movies, they always going to use that as Los Angeles because it means Los Angels. So he was a lost angel, a fallen angel. So they ended up in the Los Angeles airport where he was able to see his two children again. And the movie ended right there. They basically don't know. He doesn't know if he was still dreaming or not, if he was stuck in the dream world or if it was back in the real world with his real children. So the movie ended. So that's why they used it, the Los Angeles airport. So whenever you see airplanes or something in the movie, it's usually talking about different planes or physical, like a physical plane, formative plane, different worlds, if you will. All right, so that's the movie Inception and the mythology behind it. Hope you enjoyed. Like I said, make sure you try to check out my other video, Kabbalah 101, and any of my future videos on other movies. Thank you.
Alright, today I'll be discussing Magic 101. Your subconscious is the architect of all your reality, your subconscious mind. Magic is all about reactivating your subconscious mind. Because science tells us that we only use 10% of our brain power or consciousness, while the other 90% remains dormant or inactive or sleeping or presumably dead, if you will. So that's where you get the word tithe from. Tithe means a tenth or 10%. So we only using 10%. We have to pay tithes to the other 90% to wake us up. That's what the allegory is all about. All right, so the first step in magic is about bringing light to your subconscious mind. So as stated in my earlier videos, the subconscious in allegories is usually represented as a dead or dying father, a father from in heaven, or a father in the underworld as an Osiris, a father on the dark side, or a dark side like Darth Vader, sleeping god or sleeping beauty or sleeping person, something like that. But the 10% conscious person plays the role of savior or redeemer. Their character is usually an orphan or a loner, raised by relatives, like Spider-Man is raised by his aunt and uncle. Same with Dorothy in the Oz, or they come from another realm or planet like Superman or Thor. They may have an earthly father like Jesus did, but they also have one that's in heaven. So just notice the similarity to all these stories and allegories. Just in case you try to separate one and take them literally, and then say the other ones are mythology. They're all either true or they're going to be all got allegories. All right. So they usually come up with the logical left brain plan to enlighten or bring light to or awaken the dark
the creative or creator right side of the brain. So it's the creator that we're trying to, the creator which art in heaven, if you will. All right, so now let's go to Hebrews 7, and let's read it. So Hebrews 7 is going to pretty much talk about discussing character in the name Melchizedek. Now this character is going to, you can read them all throughout Hebrews. In particular, Hebrews 5 verse 6, you'll see where it says that Jesus or Yeshua followed in the order of Melchizedek. Other parts like Psalms 110. In Genesis 14:8, it's going to show how Abraham paid tithes. Remember, 10% paid tithes to Melchizedek. But this Hebrews 7 is also going to tell us that also. So to get the most about Melchizedek, you can just read Hebrews chapter 7, verses 1 through 21. All right. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham gave a tenth part of all, first being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. Now, I want to stop there. You can read the rest for yourself. So, like I said, you can find it in Hebrews chapter 7 mainly. Psalms 110 refers to him. Genesis 14 verse 18. Hebrews chapter 5 verse 6 talks about how Jesus followed in Melchizedek's priesthood or footsteps, if you will. What you want to make note of, you want to ask yourself, why this character is not being discussed in churches, in particular Christian churches, if this person had no father, no mother. So that means no beginning, no end. Without descent, that means that didn't die. No beginning days, was never born. So never was born, never died. So this is the Alpha and the Omega. This seems like a very important character, but you seem to only be given Jesus a lot, and this person and Jesus followed in the order of Melchizedek. So you can do your own research on that. What I want to touch on is what the allegory is telling us, because keep in mind, all my videos are showing that all these stories shouldn't be taken literally. It's another layer to them. One of the layers is allegorical form to teach you a higher message. All right. Let's see. All right. So I use the word allegory a lot, and as I discussed in this one, Abraham paid tithes to Melchizedek. If you go to Galatians chapter 4, verse 24, it states that Abram and Sarai story is an allegory. It actually says allegory in the King James Version. So you might want to look at different versions, but they actually say the word allegory. It's telling you that all those stories are allegories. So it's not just me. Your own Bible says it's an allegory. In particular, the stories about Abraham and the two covenants and of his two sons, so on and so forth. As stated earlier, Abraham paid tithes. The word tithe means a tenth or 10%. We only use 10% in our brain, the left side logical part of our brains. So we want to pay tithes to the dark side or the side that seems to be dead or dying. So Melchizedek, Mel can stand for melanin. In my earlier video, I told you that melanin is the beast that's talked about. Melanin is organic, which means contains carbon. We are carbon based. All humans, all life forms are carbon-based. Carbon and organic all mean carbon-based, which means it has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. So you want to do further research on melatonin, serotonin. DMT is another thing secreted by the pineal gland. So do some research on DMT. It was originally called niggerine. They go that N-word again. I did a video on where nigger can be found in the Bible and how it's found in your brain. But DMT was changed to NZT in the movie Limitless, because what that movie is really about how white people need to try to ingest our pineal glands to get more melanin. It doesn't work for them, but the whole movie was secretly telling you that they have, like Skull and Crossbones supposedly does this at Yale. Some secret societies, they take the pineal glands out of dead people, or sometimes living if they kidnap you or whatever have you, and they ingest these pineal glands in hopes of increasing their melanin. So it was changed to NZT in the movie Limitless. So watch Limitless with Bradley Cooper, and pay attention to the name of the book that he ended up writing in the movie, a fictional book. I think it's called Melanating the Dark Fields or something like that. So the whole movie is really about melanating the dark fields, which is Melchizedek. So that's what melanin is. Chi in Greek looks like the number X. I mean the letter X, which is actually 10. So that's what we're dealing with is the number 10 or the 10th Sephirah, which is down here, which is the kingdom or Malkuth. So this is the 10th Sephirah. In Chinese mythology, it's the dragon. So over in the Eastern cultures, it's always the dragon. Over here is snakes. So if you see the logo for the medical logo, it's those two snakes. Those snakes is called Kundalini. So you want to Google Kundalini, get a little bit. I'll do a video later on that and different logos. So Kundalini is something you want to look into. Prana, chakras, nadis, Uraeus. Those two. That's the cobra and the snake that ends up. If you look at any of the headdress of the old Egyptians, they always had two snakes on their forehead. What that symbolizes is the energy, the energy of the snake going from the base of your spine and finally beating up with your pineal gland, and so it becomes your Uraeus. So just look up these terms. That way you can be ahead of the next video I may make. Like I said, melatonin, serotonin, do your own research, tryptophan, DMT, formerly called nigarine or nigarine, however you want to pronounce it. So also, it's also the Chinese is known as an energy source. So I just want to get you, I'm just trying to break down the name Melchizedek. The name Zedek just means king. So we're dealing with the king or the crown, you should say. So we're dealing with the first Sephirah, the crown, and how we drop down to the kingdom and how we need to get back up to the king. So we're going from Keter to Malkuth, from the first Sephirah to the 10th one. So that's pretty much what this is all about and how to go about it. What else? Let's discuss some of the titles of Melchizedek. He's the king of Salem or peace. So whenever you see the word Salem or Jerusalem, it represents the heart. So that's the heart of the body. So this is another thing. He brought bread and wine. Bread is divine will, and the wine is the energy. So what you're dealing with is bread is like substance. The wine is really an allegory for the blood. So blood is life force, or this is your energy source, or this is what we all need. So blood is like the life force or energy. So that's what bread and wine. When you're dealing with bread, you're dealing with your bread basket, which is your stomach. The word Bethlehem is not a place. It's really referring, the allegory really means stomach. Bethel is your head, or the house of God. Bethlehem means the house of bread. So if you're trying, this word in Hebrew means house of bread. So your bread box is your stomach. The reason why that's important is because what you may not know is that your stomach has a whole separate brain. You actually have two brains. You can Google this. You have what they call neural cells and neurofibers also in your stomach. Your stomach has a mind of its own. It's going to operate independent of the brain in your head. So when you're dealing with intellect, and that's all white people try to tell you about being intellectual, because they don't deal with intuition. They don't access these other higher energies. So they only deal with when you go to the Kabbalah tree of life, they're only dealing with the formative world. So they go from where we are to the dream world, which is intellect. The world called Yesara. Yesara, the world of formation, I should say. So when it comes to the soul, that's the intellect stage. Intellect comes from your stomach or your gut. Intuition comes from up here. It's the next stage, Bria, or the creative world. That's Sephirah 4, 5, and 6. So that's the next stage up. So as you go on down, and further, you get more and more dense, and it gets less and less real. So further, this is the real you up here. All right, that makes sense. So basically, when you're dealing with intellect, you're dealing with your gut, which is in your stomach. When you're dealing with intuition, you're dealing with your heart. So that's the bread in Galatians 4 and 24. I want to keep reinforcing that you need to translate most of these words. Jerusalem is the heart. Bethlehem means house of bread, which is your bread basket or your stomach. So go ahead and do your own research on DMT. Look up the movie, the film Limitless, and see the plot and what it was about him ingesting these pills that gave him powers. Really is our powers. Look up some of these words and familiarize yourself with that when we talk about more magical things and what we're going to do with it. Because what you want to understand about magic, this is Magic 101. When
when we go to sleep, we go into this intellectual world or spirit world. You can, whatever you do in your dreams, you can actually bring it down to the physical world. So this is what I talked about in the movie Inception. There's 3 levels to the dream. We're actually supposed to be up here. This is what Dominic or Leonardo DiCaprio was trying to get back to, but he fell down here because he was stuck on his wife Mal, which is Malkuth. So you can see my video on Inception. But as you get up and up out of these dreams, you get, this is more realer up here. So the idea right for now, you just want to try to access this world at first, at least in your dreams. Alright, so that's Magic 101. I'll go into some more magic, some more mythology for magic and other videos. Thank you. Alright, today I'll be discussing the Necronomicon. The name loosely translates to the image of the law of the dead. Wikipedia describes the Necronomicon as a fictional grimoire appearing in the stories by H.P. Lovecraft. So let me give you a little background on H.P. Lovecraft. He was not an occultist or a practicing magician. All his stories came from a series of dreams he had. Now what makes this more interesting I should say, is that all these characters and all these stories, they were continuations from dreams he had every night. So it's like he would have one dream, and wherever he would leave off at, he would continue exactly at that point the next day. And that's highly unlikely for anybody who's ever dreamt. I mean, our dreams are pretty random. So this was obviously some channel information. But since he wasn't into occultism or practicing magic and none of that stuff, he actually made all his works public domain. He had no interest in considering himself a channeler, since that wasn't his thing. He wasn't trying to be a medium. It just happened to him. Amongst other things that the work contains, it also contains an account of these beings called the Old Ones, their history, and the means for summoning them. The Old Ones are a group of primordial, which means original, beings, sometimes called the elder things. These are actually talking about you. So when you look at the Kabbalah, Tree of Life, that's the first Sephirah, that's Ketha, that's where we really are, the first 3 Sephirahs. So that's the real you. When we drop down here into the physical form, or fall into skin. We weren't born into sin. We was born into skin. We separated ourselves from that, or we think we are separated from that. Okay, so this is what this is about. So a little bit more stuff. So in some of his stories, he talked about the older beings, sometimes called the elder things. They created a slave race. So this could be the non-melanated people who are born with calcified pineal glands. Alright, so they created, which is the old ones or the elder things, which I said is us, created a slave race called the Shoggoths that almost but destroyed the older ones, or the elders. Sound familiar? Okay. So basically in the real world, the original man ended up becoming enslaved by a race of beings that we created. So that's another story on we'll discuss it. So let me refer to the board now. Alright, so these are the 7. I'm not going to go too much into the Necronomicon. You can study on your own, but these are the 7 main characters. You can look it up on Wikipedia. These are the 7 main characters you might want to, if you do get into, once in a while I'll show you different techniques for magic in some of my magic videos. If you want to get into different energies, because remember, they're all you, so don't be afraid of how they make stuff so negative and how the religious folk tell you not to practice magic. And once I do my video on Solomon, they're just giving him a bad name. But so that's for the future. But let me define some things for you. A grimoire. The word grimoire is a magician's manual for invoking demons. That's why they call this grimoire, but they said fictional. The reason why I put quotation marks on fictional, because I told you it's basically channeled information. You're not going to have continuous dreams like that back to back. But you want to always look up, I told you, always type in words and put the word etymology on it if you're on the internet, and then it'll give you the background of what that word is. Grimoire is the same word as glamour. So for my True Blood fans, one of my favorite shows, you always hear about vampires glamoring them. What they do in the allegory of True Blood, when they glamour, the vampires basically erasing their memory by looking at them. But in reality, the word glamour, Grim, because they got another TV show called Grim, or the Grim Reaper. You heard the Grim Reaper? It's basically death.
But it all means grammar. So you need to learn how to use words. In the beginning was the word. So that's what magic is all about, spelling. The word glamour means to spell or enchant. Grammar means is to write words, or grammar is how you talk and how you speak. We've forgotten how to use words to spell. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God. So that's the Bible. So, and remember, don't get afraid of this word demons. That means your genes or your DNA or your genes. So I encourage you to look at all my videos. If this is your first one, before you get turned off, try to double back and get all the information. Try to watch all the videos, because all of them tie in. Alright? So just look up the word glamour and etymology of glamour. You'll see originally it means grammar. So we all went to grammar school, but they didn't teach us a different word. They not teaching us how to really spell. They don't want us spelling, especially if you have a lot of melanin, because we're more powerful. We can access these energies and become these energies and not worship these. The point of magic is not to worship these energies, it's to become these energies, because they're our abilities. Alright, so later on that for, like I said, the magic videos. Alright, so I also told you that most of the writers of horror movies, anywhere from Freddy Krueger, all these characters are based on some form of H.P. Lovecraft's work. So one of the people I want to point out is Friday the 13th, Jason. The name Jason is really a derivative of the word Joshua, or which later became Jesus. It was really Yeshua. In the Greek form, in Greek it means healer. In Hebrew it means Lord is my salvation, or simply Savior. So Joshua, Jesus, Yeshua, or Yehoshua, and Jason is all the same word. But if you actually look at the word, the English breakdown of it is Jah and Son. So you might have heard of Rastafarian saying, oh, Jah. So basically you got three gods. You can go to the Egyptian god Ra, which is just really Re, or the sun god. It's just a deity. We're not supposed to worship any of these. But anyway, and then you got Yah in Hebrew, and then you got Jah for Rastafarian. So Jah, Son, is really the Son of God. So it's the same word. So in the movie, the story goes, in the original, the first one, because the writers and producers didn't continue for the rest of them, but originally, Jason was already dead. He had got drowned in Camp Crystal Lake. So the Camp Crystal Lake is basically your head. The crystal is your pineal gland. So this is your skull. The crystal is your pineal gland. The lake is basically all the water and the waves. You know, your brain looks like a whole bunch of brain waves, wrinkles or whatever have you. So in the Bible, the Camp Crystal Lake would be Golgotha, or the Calvary, or the place of the skull, where Christ. Remember, Christ means crystal. Where Christ was crucified at. So instead of being crucified, instead of Jesus, the Son of God, being crucified or crossed or crystallized in the skull of Golgotha, it was Jason, the Son of God, who drowned in the skull. So it's the same thing. So all through the movie, his mother, or mater, like alma mater, mater means matter or material world. So in the physical world, when you get out the spiritual head of yourself, in the physical world, his mother was possessed by the Son of God. Because all through the movie, Kill Them Mommy was, if you got to look at the old movie, or you can just go on Wikipedia, you can see the plot of any movie. It'll tell you word for word. But basically, throughout the movie, she was the one that was avenging her son's death 22 years later, after he drowned. But he was actually possessing her. So what happened is that the Son of God is all of us can become Christ. It's inside our head. And we just got to learn how to use our pineal gland. It's trapped inside, it's either drowning or being crucified in Golgotha, but we can resurrect this energy again and tap into these different deities, so on and so forth. But we're trapped in our mother or material world, which is the 10th Malkuth, or the material world, on the Kabbalah tree of life. So in the end, she ended up getting decapitated, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to point out about the story. I think that's it. Okay, so yeah, just to summarize, you want to look up the etymology of grimoire and learn these words and what they really mean. The definition may be one thing, a magician's manual for invoking demons, but the actual word can mean just spelling. That's all you're doing with magic. You're putting spells on people. They made it so negative in movies and different things to stop the most powerful people from using their own magic, and they use it all the time. All right, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed. Alright, let's talk astrology, or should I say astrotheology, because it's actually the study of God, which is you and I, as we were above in the heavens. So as it is above, so it is below. Alright, so one of the first things I want to tell you
that the English word the THE is equivalent. Translate in Spanish, it becomes EL. In French, it becomes LE. So I also told you in a previous video that the Canaanites actually worship their god called El, but it was wrongly translated. El actually means light or energy or power. To be more specific, your light or your energy. So the subtitle of this lecture is the SUN of man, or the Son of Man. So what we'll be talking about is the light. What we'll be discussing is the sun. So these two charts are basically the same thing with different things on it. So this is basically showing how the sun goes around the equator. So this middle line right here on both of these are just the equator. So basically, ordinarily, the sun will go up and then come back down around September 21st. It'll continue to go down to December 21st and back up to March. But instead of having a sign like this going up and then down, you just bring the circle around. Now you're making a whole circle. So let me point out a few things on this. So what you have is the 4 cardinal points that I just briefly mentioned. Aries is being the first one, which is around March 21st. The second one is Cancer, around June 21st. Libra, around September 21st. And Capricorn, around December 21st. What's happening is, this is where the sun first passes over the equator right here. So this is where the year really starts off at. The year really starts off in Aries and ends in Pisces. Because if you notice that September should have been the 7th month, October should have been the 8th month. Based on the prefix Sept, Oct, November means 9, December or Deci means 10. And if you look at most horoscopes, they always start off with Aries, no matter what month it is. Usually the horoscopes in every newspaper, it usually starts off with the Aries horoscope. Alright. So back on the word El, because I told you they translated that into God. Another word, Elyon, E-L-Y-O-N, is wrongly translated as the Most High God. That L part should be light or something like that. So we'll call it the Most High Light. In this case, we're talking about the sun, the Most High Sun. And it's also, Elyon has to do with Leo. Alright, Leo is Latin for the word lion. I just told you, E-L and L-E means the same thing. Also, the letter L can be translated. So E-L can turn into L. The Y becomes an I, and the O-N stays the same. How do you know? How is that possible? Simply, if you know if you know anything about language, Y, I, and J can always be substituted. That's how you went from Yeshua to Jesus, or Joshua. You substituted the Y for a J. And before you became, between Y and J, it's also translated into, I think it's Iosis, so you have to look it up. I-E-O-S-U-S or something like that. So if you learn how Yeshua became Jesus, you'll know Y turned into I, then I became J, which is Joshua, and then later on turned into Jesus. So you can do the same thing with Elyon. It really means lion or Leo. So mostly everything starts out right here. This is also the tribe of Judah, because in the Old Testament, these 12 houses was actually the 12 tribes. Because remember, Jacob became the sun in the Old Testament. He became the light. Israel is light. In the New Testament, you're dealing with Jesus, who went around Galilee. He was specifically called the Son of Man and the Son of God. So he went around Galilee. Look up the word Galilee. Check my facts. Galilee means circle. So he ran around in circle with his 12 disciples. So you can look up a lot of these allegories. You're dealing with Hercules. Hercules had 12 labors. His first labor was to slay the Nemean lion. So look up Hercules, the mythology of Hercules, which is another allegory. It's the same story of Jesus. Instead of saying disciples, they say labors. So look at that number 12. Instead of saying tribe, they say labors. So most of the allegories start off either in Leo, or they start off in Aries. Or they mention those, I should say. So just FYI, a sun is really a star. It's not different from a star. The reason why it looks so huge because it's closer to it. So our sun is basically a star. Alright. So another person who played the sun in the Bible was Samson. His name actually means man of the sun or little sun. So Shimshon in Hebrew means man of the sun or little sun. So Samson played, if you look at, go to Judges chapter 15, he has a riddle that talks about him, about a dead lion, the carcass of a lion. He's eating honey out of the carcass of a lion, and he made a riddle. What I'm going to do is summarize the story of Samson and Delilah
in a bit and show you that whole story is about the sun, how it loses power and it gains power back. Alright, so we'll get back to Samson and Delilah in a minute. Let me point out some more stuff about the wheel itself. So I already told you about the 12 divisions or 12 houses, starting with Aries, ended up in Pisces. The 4 cardinal points is Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Also, if you want to go to 4, you want to know about the 4 Gospels. 2 of the Gospels do not mention, I repeat, do not mention something so important as the virgin birth. So only Matthew and Luke mention the virgin birth. And that takes place down here on the 4th cardinal point. The other 2 starts off in Aries. How do you know? If you read Mark and John, it talks about a lamb. A lamb is just like saying ram. So anything with a ram or a lamb, you're dealing with Aries. Just like the Masons, they do their rituals around this character named Hiram Abiff. Hiram means high ram. So he's talking about a Jesus character again. Also, another one is Jason and the Argonauts. If you go to the Jason and Argonaut story, because remember, Jason means son of God. It's also a variation of the word, of the name Jesus or Joshua or Yeshua. I did that in another video. So go back to these old videos or just check the fact. The name Jason means son of God. It's also a variation of Yeshua or Joshua or Jesus. If you read that story, it's all about him having to retrieve this golden fleece from this Olympian in Aries, A-R-E-S. So it's 12 Olympians. So we got that 12 again. 12 Olympians is a golden fleece, the fleece or the hair of a ram that can fly. So we're back to the ram again. So that's what Jason and the Argonauts is all about. Him retrieving the hair of a ram, a flying ram, that happens to be in the house of Aries. Alright, make sure I don't miss nothing. You can also get the 4 horses and the 4 horsemen from this story also. It's brightest up here, so at this point it's the whitest. So you're dealing with the white horse when you're right here in this quadrant. So these 3 are the white horse. The next 3, where the leaves start to turn red, you're dealing with the red horse. It's its darkest point down here. So right here in this area right here, you're dealing with the black horse. Then you're going back green or pale because the leaves from the sunlight, because light is starting to rise again. Now you're dealing once again with the green horse. Now those are the horses. You got the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, and the green horse. But these are the horsemen. If you read the horseman for the first horse, which is white, it talks about him having a bow and arrow. So you're probably dealing with Sagittarius. The third horse is talking about the rider having scales. So you're dealing with Libra. In the middle of those, you got to read Revelation 6 to get this story. So do your own deductions. In Revelation 6, it talks about in the middle of all those 4 horses, someone was talking about wheat. You got to know in astrology, Virgo, the Virgin, she's always carrying wheat in one arm, and so on and so forth. So she's known as the house of bread also, or Bethlehem. So anything to do with wheat or bread or wine, she's talking about, this is wine season around September 21st. This is where they harvest the grapes also. So she's talking about wheat and wine. So Virgo is also amongst those talking. She's not a horse or a rider, but just read Revelation. It's going to say a voice in the midst of the 4 horsemen. Alright, so you get the 4 horsemen. You also get the 4 elements of each sign. So there are 4 elements. You got fire, earth, air, and water. So I got the fire signs in red, the earth signs in green, the air signs in white, and the blue are the water signs. This is also your Fantastic Four. So it's a movie coming out. There's already been a comic book. So you know it's one of the Fantastic Four that can set themselves on fire, which is fire. The other one looks like a rock or earth. The other one is air. She can turn invisible. My brother is Rubber Man, but that's how they represent water as being flexible and fluid. Alright. Another thing, I think the 7 days a week. You also want to know that each division or each house is ruled by one of the 7 days of the week, or the 7. The ancients only seen 5 planets along with the moon and the sun as being in the heavens. So that's what we get our 7 days a week. Sun is Sunday, moon is Monday, Tuesday is Mars Day. So basically, the sun rules Leo, the moon rules Cancer, Mercury rules Venus and Gemini, and so on and so forth. I have it on the chart, and then I'll show it to you where you can copy it down. But what's important is where Saturn rules. Saturn rules
Aquarius, and Capricorn. So Saturn in mythology, I told you, became Chronos in the Roman mythology. Chronos means time, chronological order. So Chronos means time. Saturn became Satan. The reason why time and Satan and Saturn is all bad, because your middle finger, if you go into palmistry, so look up palmistry, and each finger is ruled by a different planet also. The middle finger happens to be ruled by Saturn. That's why it became a fuck you or a bad finger. That's why on Saturday, people take the Sabbath or take the day off. Everything was Saturn. Saturnalia was always celebrated around December 25th, which now became Christmas. It became a Christian holiday. But look up Saturnalia. It's right before the sun started rising, where most of the chaos can be. So those 3 days around the winter solstice, when the sun sits still or dies for 3 days, solstice, that's where they started celebrating Saturnalia. So look that up. I'll bring that up in another video. Just do your own research. So Saturn became Satan. Satan just means adversary. It also means opposer or opponent. So it means the opposite sign. So for instance, the opposite of Leo would be Aquarius. So now we're going to go back to the Samson story. I already told you that Samson means man of the sun. The sun rules this one. Delilah means outpouring or poured out. So you remember, Aquarius is the man with the water bucket. So the pouring of water. Another derivative of her name is Deliy, which means water bucket. So Satan. So this is Leo. If he's the sun, the opposite sign or the Satan side of his, and Satan happens to rule this one because he represents the sun, and Saturn rules Aquarius anyway, and it happens to be the opposite sign. This is the story of Samson and Delilah. Remember, he had 7 locks. Those are your 7 chakras, or the 7 Elohim that they talk about created you in the book of Genesis. So 7 is always going to mean chakras. So he had 7 locks. And to summarize the story, he got his hair cut, he got weaker, they cut his eyes out, which are the windows to the soul. If you notice, and it was all Delilah's fault, she's played the Satan role in this story, or Saturn, because she tricked him into telling his secret to his strength. So it's really just the sun is getting weaker. So as it gets darker down here, there's no sunshine in the wintertime. And then what happened, they had him in prison, and his hair started growing back. Now if you remember, go to Judges 16 and read this story. He ended up